This nigga here.
Yeah,
What's
man.
been going on with you, nigga?
Actually, bro, I just finished watching the first episode of a 4-part series called When They See Us. You definitely need to check that out if you didn't.
Before they see us. What?
No, 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 no,
What
no.
is that?
It's called When They See Us. My bad.
Oh, when they see us. Okay.
Yeah.
But is it a drama? Is it a comedy? What is romance?
It's a biopic. It's a true event that happened, but it's actors. Like, you know how the OJ case went down and they did the acting series for that.
Yeah, biopic.
Yeah. So yeah, they did it for a true story that happened back in '89 in Harlem, and it's an eye opener. I mean, I know stuff like this was going on, but it's definitely an eye opener for people who haven't, seen the story or experienced something like this. So you definitely need to check it out, bro.
Okay, so without giving it away, like what is like what is it? Like, what is it about?
I got you. It's
It's
police discrimination on 5 young black kids. A story that happened on 5 young black kids, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna give you, bro. And it's heartbreaking. It's heart wrenching, bro. And yeah, man, like you got to get yourself emotionally ready to watch that.
It's just stuff like that, man. Stuff like that puts you like in a little depression for a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like it's important, but it's like, damn, man.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
You don't want to be in that mood. You don't want to be in that mood.
Yeah, you
it's
don't.
Unfortunate.
That's why it took me a while for me to watch it, because when it was coming out and I seen, reviews and all of that stuff, I was like, all right, man, let me just get myself emotionally ready, because I don't want to just throw this upon myself without being ready to watch it. I don't want to just skip through this thing, and I want to stomach it, you know what I'm saying? And I carry on my day. Because yeah, like you just said, it can get you down, it can get you depressed, or it can get you angry. And that first episode definitely got me angry, man. But I realized that all you can do is move forward and try to help the world. Try to help the world be a better place.
So when you see, okay, so you say, help the world when you see it. So what is it that you is willing to do for the world? Like, what is you, after seeing something like that, what is you gonna do? You know what I'm saying, to try to make the world a better place?
That's a great question. The answer to that question is I'm gonna influence all generations through music, poetry, conferences, talks, interviews, speaking to people, making sure they're ahead of the game. We need things put in place like classes about finance and classes about psychology. Black people need to know psychology.
Yeah.
Also, deep rooted history courses, not just the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X. We need deep rooted history courses. So that would be my version of helping the world, of healing the world. Other people go in different routes, man. Building schools, or a better nutrition for school lunches. There's all routes, but I'm gonna choose those routes.
So when you watch something like that, do that give you a lot of anxiety when it comes to your child? Like when you see something like that?
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. But then I thought to myself, like we're like, his mom and we're gonna have him ready. Like, what happened to those kids in that movie, it was a product of being in that city system, and even the parents weren't aware of what to do. So that's how that whole situation went down. But I feel like as black people, this era, I feel like we're like we're doing a little bit better in being ahead of the game and being more knowledgeable about things and not letting things happen like that. You know what I'm saying?
So how about like a Trayvon Martin situation? It's like, dad in the suburbs, kids simply walking to the gas station and get Skittles and tea, and walking back home, and then when the whole thing transpired, he was just pretty much self-defending himself. How does something like that impact you then? Because then that would, signify a kid just defending himself and him potentially being well parented, but just defending himself.
All we can do is be ahead of the game. Things tragic happen like that all the time. The only thing we could do is lessen the percentage so we can be more prepared. Because the percentage is high of us getting into those situations because, like, for a long time we weren't knowledgeable about laws or how the system works and all of that. But now I feel like we're every year we're getting more prepared for anything to happen like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
That's all you really can do is just be prepared. Honestly.
That's it, bro. Because what's going to happen is going to happen. All you can be, because we don't have an answer. All we can be is prepared. We don't have an answer.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was damn. I didn't think we were gonna start off so serious, but yeah, I was thinking about because I like to joke around and and really have a lot of self-deprecating humor, but I didn't have multiple people say like, oh, that's not such a good look, and you're talking things into existence and all that. And like with me, like if, when it comes to say literacy, see, I even fucked that word up. Literacy, yeah, like being literal and English and all that shit. Like I'll joke around and say I'm illiterate. You know what I'm saying? Like I joke around. It's not me sitting here like, oh, I'm bashing myself. I'm giving myself such low confidence. It's just me joking around and just self-deprecating. Mm-hmm. But most people say like, you put that energy out there, or you talk that a certain way around certain business people. They ain't gonna. That's like, I get all that, but at the end of the day, I do it because it helps humble me. You know what I'm saying? And it helps me have a level head going into situations, and it's like say like learning. You know what I'm saying? If you sit there saying, okay, well, I ain't the smartest or something to that effect, it's like my thing about that is if you already think that, which is I don't think it's a bad thought, because you should always be willing to learn. So if you're saying, as long as you're not tearing yourself down to the point where you don't try to seek, knowledge, then it's like if that's your motivation to seek knowledge, I think that's a good thing. It's only when you tearing yourself down and you in a depressive state and you want to kill yourself, then that's when it's unhealthy.
I mean, yeah, but even if you're not in that state, you can still speak things into existence.
But what if it's already in existence? So say like learning, like learning English or learning whatever, you know what I'm saying? If you already think that you're that, then and you're talking and you're just saying that, you're not. What are you talking into existence? Because you will always, no matter how smart you are, you always can learn something. You know what I'm saying? So right. You can't be stupid. You know what I'm saying? If you really feel like you're stupid, then you're gonna be. It is what it is. But I don't feel like I'm stupid. It's just joking around,
right?
And it's me saying that I'm willing to learn more, basically.
Right. But the thing about that is, there's no cap on literacy. There's no last level of literacy. If you say, like, I'm not as I don't speak as well as so and so or these people or whatever. You're kind of keeping yourself at the level that you're at. Like putting that energy out there, like you're kind of keeping yourself at that level, and that level is not even a bad. Like you're subconsciously saying that the level that you're at is not good enough. You get what I'm saying?
But that's how human nature is, though. That's how we survived as a species.
True.
We always, no matter how much money we make, no matter how many, how much attention we get, no matter how many followers we get, we always going to seek more.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
What I'm saying? That's why that's just in our nature. You know what I'm saying? It's different if you say, oh well, damn. If you had a mindset like, damn, I'm broke. Like the conversation we had earlier, like, damn, I'm broke. And, like, shit, like, man, I'm rubbing two nickels together trying to make a dollar. Like, if you own that type of shit, then yeah, you're probably gonna stay in that same realm for a majority of your life, if not all your life. But if you have the mindset, okay, let me make better investments. Let me be smarter with my money. But at the same time, I'm wealthy in my own right, because at the end of the day, majority of people in the U.S. who at least have an apartment, regardless if it's roommates or not, they are a part of the 1% of the world as far as income. Now in regards to being a part of 1% in America, that's a whole nother topic. But most Americans, even if you're in a poverty situation, is still 1% in the world. That's what a lot of people don't really put into, don't really think about that or don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? So then it goes back to human nature. You're always comparing yourself to your environment. So if you're constantly seeing on Instagram this motherfucker throwing up $100 bills and shit, and they're like, damn, I could use that for rent this week. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you always comparing yourself to what you can see. You're not even looking at it from a full scope. So that's all I'm saying. Like, there's levels to the shit as far as talking stuff into existence. And like I said, if you already trying to learn, as long as you ain't putting yourself down and you're believing it and you going into this depressive state about it, then that can be unhealthy. But if you're doing it in a joking manner where it's like that actually motivates you to want to learn more, that motivates you to want to get off your ass and do something with your life, I don't think that's such a bad thing.
I feel that. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not too bad. Yeah, let's get this joint started, Doc.
Yeah, let's get this shit started, bro.
So yeah, man, I'm your host, Smoove. I'm here with Petty G, and you are now listening to the Burg Bros podcast.
Greens, potatoes, tomatoes, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, beans, greens, potatoes, greens, potatoes, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkey, beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chicken, turkey. You name it. You name it. You name it. You name it.
All right, man. So I got the Netflix special out the way. We had to get that out the way first. And so LeVar Ball is back. LeVar Ball is back speaking to the ESPN analyst. I'm not sure if you've seen a couple of those.
Oh yeah, I seen him talking to Skip and Shannon. Yes, I seen that.
Yeah, man. He was talking to them. He was talking to Colin Cowherd. I think.
Yeah, I didn't see the Colin Cowherd.
Yeah, I think Colin mentioned something about his business, and he was like, "It's business. That happens. Like even the biggest companies, it happens to them. Like people stole money, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah, that you are making a point there. Like in business, in the world of business, like even huge companies take huge downfalls and they pick themselves back up. So when the news came out about his company and the person stole money, we should have looked at that as, oh yeah, it's business. That kind of shit happens, rather than. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, but it's kind of different because one is more closer to home to him. It's like it ain't like there's just some. You know what I'm saying? He ain't like he's a Bed Bath or a Walmart or something where it's like it's somebody who you know was hired, you know, by the company but don't know the person who started the company.
But that happens to every company. Every company starts off as home to whoever makes it.
Yeah, but it's because of the person we're talking about, LeVar Ball, who is hella confident, or some people say cocky. I view cocky and confidence in the same realm, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I mean, it's just the way he came onto the scene. This would be a non-factor if he didn't, you know, come onto the scene how he did. But because he's LeVar Ball, that's why it's a big deal. And that's why, you know, at every chance, people, you know, many reporters and analysts, the opportunity, when the opportunity presents itself to down LeVar Ball, that's what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You got this guy, this black man who is in support of his son, you know what I'm saying, making money, you know what I'm saying? Of course, motherfuckers going to try to come at his neck. Yeah. So that's the reason why this is such a story, as opposed to if this happened at Sears, you know, it's not a story. It's not a story.
Yo, like, when the last time you been in Sears, my nigga?
Damn, I don't even fucking know.
Yo, shit, it's like Sears. I think of Sears when I think of the mall. It's something to pass through. We pass through Sears to get through the other stores.
Yeah, it's just one of them stores, man, that's dying. I mean, that's just where we at in the world right now. Like, everything is online. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these companies, you know what I'm saying, they still trying to go by the dinosaur way of going about shit, and it's like they're not updating. They ain't adapting. They ain't staying up to date on shit. You know, everything is free Wi-Fi. Everything is order online. You know, Amazon set the tempo. They were before their time, and it's like now they killing niggas.
Yeah,
you know, Netflix killing niggas.
And if you think about it, this honestly been going on since the beginning of time. Like back then, they used to have factories, and workers used to go to the factory and get their paychecks. But it's ran by robots now. Ain't nobody in the factory working like that. Manufacturing companies. So it's been going on since the beginning of time. What the milk boy? You remember the newspaper boys? Like all of that is.
That drop off the milk. Like that's some fucking 1950, 1960 shit.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Like, if I see a nigga dropping off some milk at somebody's house, I'm like, nigga, what are you doing, man?
Wait, so hold on. How did that work? Did they have a route and then people paid at the door? Like, how did that work?
Man, I'm pretty sure it's like kind of like a newspaper subscription. Like you subscribe to getting milk delivery or some shit. I don't know. I wasn't born back then. I don't know how it worked. But
yo, they probably subscribe to have milk delivered to their door.
Hey, I mean, niggas gotta eat cereal somehow, right?
Yeah. You know speaking of milk, milk, we're not supposed to be even drinking milk.
Yeah, they actually say after the age of 5, humans is not supposed to intake milk, which is why half the population is lactose intolerant, but the people who is lactose tolerant is actually the oddballs in the situation.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah.
Niggas who are not lactose intolerant are you're not supposed to be drinking milk. Niggas used to make fun of the people who were lactose. Oh, you can't drink milk. Nah, dog. We the weird ones drinking milk. Drinking milk at schools.
Yeah, I've always had a weird, like an allergy. I just been weird in general, but just my health is just weird because I'm supposed to be allergic to peanuts, but I can't recall like having a bad breakout like directly from peanuts. I don't remember having a bad breakout from touching grass. I remember having a bad break. I think you were there for when I had a bad breakout because of the dogs, and somebody's in the individual's house when my eye swole up or some shit. But I never had experienced a peanut allergy, a shellfish allergy. I would go to fucking Chinese buffets and eat crab legs all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. It's weird. I grew out of it, and I mean, I just ate it. The more and more I ate it, I guess I just grew out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know, bro. I don't know if I grew out of it or not, but I'm not gonna try it, bro. I just stay away from it. The shellfish.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Lobsters is overrated. I'll just add that little tidbit in there. But anyways,
But wait, hold on. Wait, one more thing. Anyway,
go ahead.
The shellfish are the bugs of the sea, so fuck that.
Well, if crabs is a bug, then I'm all in on that. Yeah, damn fucking sea roach, whatever you want to call it.
Hey,
I'm all in.
Hey, G, read off some stats. We're gonna take a commercial break. I need to pick up my fries from the oven, man.
This nigga said a commercial break.
Yeah, man.
Look at the fries, nigga. So, NBA playoffs. Got Raptors winning game 1. Got Warriors winning game 2. Siakam went off in the first game. He didn't go off in the second game, which is scary because it then, with that being said, proves my theory wrong. Initially I said I think the Raptors will win the series, but because it seems like the series is kind of dependent on what Siakam is doing, along with, the Warriors like gazillion and one fucking injuries, seem like Siakam, how he plays, kind of set the tempo as to how the Raptors is going to go. Because you already know Kawhi is going to get off 30, 40 points. That's not going to be good enough, win or lose. Siakam is what's the determiner of how the series is going to go. They split the series 1-1 in a home game. Both of the games was home for Raptors, which is big news because Raptors should have fucking won the second game anyway, especially at home. But in the way that they lost it was a fucking mess. It was silly. And it just boils back to why Siakam is going to be the determiner of if the Raptors can win this series or not.
Hey, G.
What up?
It's all about Kyle Lowry, bro, not Siakam.
Oh, really? Please divulge.
First of all, Kyle Lowry has been in this league for a very long time. He has experience. And if he doesn't step up, then how is the rest of the team going to step up? He needs to be a leader. He needs to be a leader in this finals matchup. He needs to help out Kawhi Leonard with those big... My fault. I ran up the stairs, bro, and I'm trying to catch my breath. But he needs to step up with big threes and playmaking and defense. So, yeah, it's Kyle Lowry instead of Siakam. I mean, Siakam, he could be that third Chris Bosh.
I mean, my thing is, yeah, Lowry do need to step up because he only had 13 points and 2 assists last game. He's the point guard. Like, why he got 2 assists? That's Derek Fisher numbers right there. But my thing is, Siakam had a big, what was it? What did he have that first game? Like 30 plus points.
Yeah.
First game, and then he only had 12 points second game.
But that's
ironic. I mean, that's going off of wins and losses. Going off of wins and losses, that can't be overlooked.
I mean, yeah, you're right. Siakam is still young. He's finding himself. What is he, 20? I don't know, but he's still young. He's still... Yeah. He's still finding himself. And, I feel like eventually he'll start averaging consistent numbers. Not this season.
32. But my thing is, okay, Lowry had 9 assists, but those assists only is relevant if the player you passing the ball to makes it. So, but he only has 7 points, which is no better than what he had game 2. So, I mean, if we're going off of the points that Lowry contribute, I mean, it's not really too much of a difference from game 1 and game 2. Siakam is the notable difference in the situation.
I feel what you're saying.
You know, but then you add on the fact that you got Durant obviously out with a calf injury. Then you have Thompson having a hamstring injury. Then you have what's that nigga name? Looney. He's out indefinitely because of the chest injury. Who was a really big factor, coming off the bench and shit. And then you have who else? Oh yeah, you had the motherfucking Cousins. You had him coming back from a quad injury, and in the first series they played. So the Warriors are injury riddled at this point. Everybody. The fact they're still able to pull out a win on the road in the finals in Toronto, where you pretty much not only got a whole city on their back, they got a whole fucking country on their back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know what I'm saying? I gotta give it up to the Warriors in that instance, and they're saying Thompson is questionable for Game 3 because of the injury. Obviously Durant is ruled out. Cousins is here and contributing in a major way. Looney, like I said, out indefinitely. So it's going. I mean, a lot of experts got Raptors winning, but and they might win, but I still seeing Game 2. Let me know that Warriors is going to win the series.
Yeah, that's what you call resiliency, man. They've been there before. They know how to act. They've been through all the bumps and bruises before. The Raptors, a lot of them is their first time there. I think Kawhi is the only one that's been to the finals, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the Warriors.
Yeah, him and Green.
Oh yeah, him and Danny Green. But yeah, Danny Green is not even playing well. Like, he's being quiet. Like, you remember those big time buckets he made while he was on the Spurs in the finals?
Yep.
He's not making them now on the Raptors.
I mean, you 5-6 years removed from that, so it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just resiliency, man. I think the Warriors going to pull it out. They're going to get these 2 home wins, 3 and 4. The only way the Raptors will have a chance is if the Raptors still one of the games at the Oracle Arena, dog.
Which is going to be big because I don't know if you know this, but this is the last year that the Warriors will be playing in the Oracle Arena.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving to San Fran next year.
Yeah, that is true. San Francisco Warriors.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna keep Golden State, because Golden State is representative of California.
Yeah, that's
not
facts.
necessarily the city.
Yeah,
so I think they'll still keep Golden State.
Bro, how many professional teams does Cali have, bro? Like 9, 10?
Are you talking about just in all sports across the board?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's run down the list, shall we? Okay. I'm going to start out with Warriors, since we're talking about them. Obviously, Raiders. Raiders come up. Chargers. LA Rams.
49ers.
Let's see. 49ers, that's 5. Sacramento Kings, that's 6. Clippers, 7. Another team in the football. Let's see, San Francisco, in the baseball, San Francisco, Dodgers? San Francisco Dodgers, it's 8. Let's see. I thought there's one more team in the NFL that's in Cali. Well, that's not right there. Shit. Yeah, bro. Yeah. So, oh yeah, Lakers. How the fuck we forget to be?
Oh, that's wild, bro. You forgot the Lakers?
That's 10. 10. I mean, they kind of irrelevant right now, outside of the whole Magic Johnson fiasco.
They still they still relevant because 23 is over there.
I mean, yeah, but they're relevant right now because they ain't in the playoffs. But so that's 10. So yeah, about 10 plus teams over there. We ain't even got to hockey. We ain't got to soccer. Like, that's just almost like 3 leagues, most of which come from just 2 leagues.
Damn, is there a hockey team in Cali?
Yeah, I think there's a hockey team in Cali. I mean, they play the shit inside, so it ain't like the ice gonna melt or some shit, you know?
They probably suck.
You said what?
I said they probably suck.
Yeah, they probably do. Probably why they don't come out the top of the dome, but nobody really talk about them. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, they got a shit ton of teams over there. And they thinking about moving more teams over there. Because then they say they're about to move, who else they trying to move? Well, Oakland about to leave. Raiders about to leave. They about to go to Vegas. But they about to move, who else they trying to move over there? I forgot. But for whatever reason, Los Angeles is the hot spot for sports, even though many experts, and I don't even see it even though I ain't been over there. It don't seem like the sports town, sports city.
It's only there because, you know,
money.
Hollywood and celebrities and all that. And so celebrities need things to do. They're giving them some sports teams, you know?
Yeah. You heard about the Kawhi suing Nike shit?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so apparently, because Kawhi been kind of like, I don't know if he like a artist on the side or some shit, but apparently he was like sketching some logos or whatever for Nike as far as his, you know, his brand or whatnot. So it was a logo of his hand with, you know, KL, which is obviously his initials, and with number 2 because that's his number he been rocking with. And so apparently Nike, you know, copyrighted, you know, that logo without his authorization, and he's, you know, he tried to utilize it in like summer league camps and other shit, but it's like he can't use it now because Nike already done copyrighted it. Despite the fact, I think he's with he went New Balance or some shit. He was under the Jordan brand for the longest, but then I think he signed with New Balance or whatnot. You know, it's just crazy. I mean, the man is trying to win a fucking championship. He put a whole fucking city on his back, and
no. Him and Drake put the whole city on their backs.
I mean, Drake been dick riding all kind of sports teams. You remember he was fucking, you know, with Kentucky. That didn't make any sense at all, outside of the fact they was the front runners at the time. But, you know,
he always stuck with Toronto Raptors. He always stuck with Toronto Raptors.
He always stuck with it, but he wasn't going as hard for him, with reason. But it's like, I mean, it is what it is. I give Kawhi the majority of that. I give Drake the little 6-man little shit, but Kawhi, you know, come on. And then DeRozan bitter ass talking about some what he say? What did
Yo,
you hear what DeRozan said?
Yeah, I seen it and I forget what he said, man.
He sounded like a bitter ex. That's what he sounded like. He just sounded like it's like, dude, all right, you didn't even have to say anything. Just like he said he basically he sacrificed or some shit like that.
A sacrificial lamb or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like, nigga, you look like a damn lamb. Shut up. Relax, man. ain't talking about you, man. Like it just sounded bitter at that point. And I get it. He didn't want to leave, so of course you're gonna be bitter. But it's like, dude, you don't need to be seen, right? You don't, like, niggas want all the accolades for every fucking thing. Just relax, man. Just relax.
Yeah,
like I get it. You had the ball in the field, but it's done. You know.
Yeah, he's not even as good as Kawhi. Just relax.
Yeah, just relax. You know, it don't take all that. I'm a sacrificial lamb, and all right, man.
Like he should have known. Like he should have known that was gonna make him look like a butthurt person, bro. He should have known before he said that.
I mean, but niggas, they get caught off guard by these reporters, and they already be in their feelings about some shit, and then boom. You know what I'm saying? He's seen Kawhi getting all the love and accolades, and Toronto begging him to stay, and he was hating. He's hating. You know what I'm saying? And again, I get it, but it's like, come on, dude. It's a bad. You just hurting your brand at that point, making a stupid comment like that.
Yeah, man. I don't even know. Man, I just think he's like. He reached the epitome of his career already. He reached his max. I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? He reached his
peak.
Yep. That's what I'm looking for. He reached his peak already, and it's only plateau or down from here, man.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's unfortunate. I don't think we ever touched on the max contract deals, like because of the whole making the all pro, all whatever team or whatnot. Did we ever? We ain't never touch on that, did we?
Briefly with Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was briefly.
Yeah. I mean, Kemba made the third All NBA team. So there's been talks of do Hornets sign him to that max contract or get him at least, or offer him something at least close to it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, Jerry V said it best, man. Just let this man, if this man want to win a championship or at least be in championship contention before his career is up, let that man go somewhere where he can win it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, he's loyal to the city. He's done said that he loves the city. But at the end of the day, if you're a true competitor, you want to be able to compete for a championship. You don't want to just make it to the 8th seed and then that be it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even if another team offer him slightly less than what the Hornets is offering him, it's like if they have a better shot at winning, then it's like, as a competitor, you should go to that team.
Yeah. What would be the best spot for him to land to win a chip?
See, that's why this summer is going to be a very interesting summer for the NBA, because you don't know where. Even though they done said Kawhi actually just, I don't know if you heard this news, Kawhi actually just bought a house in Ontario, Canada. Yeah, they said, I mean, that was sources are saying that he already done bought a house there, and he done bought a house he already had bought a house in San Diego, but that's where he went to school at. So, and it's 2 hours away from Clippers facilities, so it ain't like it's like, oh my God, he's going to Clippers. It's like, that's where his crib is at. But, and they were saying like how Kyrie done bought a house in New York. They're saying like Durant, I think he done bought a crib in New York. That's what sources are saying. It's not, I don't know how accurate it is, but that's what they're saying. So if it was in a perfect world, I think that he would fit best with the Lakers. Kemba, I feel like he fit best with the Lakers.
Okay.
With LeBron, with Lonzo, and I mean, because Kemba is a scoring point guard. I mean, he's on the shorter side. He's 6'1". Granted, Lonzo is more of a passer and he's 6'6". But I think if you put Kemba as a 2, kind of, and like I said, like a couple episodes ago, we're in a positionless league now, where it's like, I mean, niggas can mix and match. I think the Warriors kind of transcended everything, where you play small ball anyway. So if you have a 6'1" shooting guard, it's not really as big of a deal as it would have been in the mid to early 2000s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
it's like now you can kind of operate like that, especially when your best player is 6'8", 260, and can play 1 through 5. You know what I'm saying? So it don't really matter. So I think he could fit well with Lakers. I think he can fit well with any superstar really that he's robbing to. I mean, he haven't been fucking Superman, Batman, and He-Man all in one at Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think it'd be a relief for him to be able, especially at the back end of his career, to be able to be like, all right, young niggas, you got it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think if he link up with a KD, or he link up with an Anthony Davis, or he link up with a LeBron and Alonzo and that whole young team, you know what I'm saying? I think any situation would really be a good situation for him.
Yeah, I feel like, you said it's a positionless league, but I still feel like putting the Kemba Walker on the Lakers is going to cause a lot of friction between him and Lonzo being on the court, because they are used to bringing the ball up the court. They're used to being point guards, manufacturing that offense and all of that. So it's going to, remember when Rondo went to Lakers and that was kind of off?
Yeah, but Rondo is a different story. Rondo can't shoot a lick, and Rondo is just different. He plays much better defense, but he's different.
Yeah, he actually started. You said what?
And he starts trouble too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
Rondo. Kemba is a more classy athlete. He ain't really about the spotlight outside of basketball. And like I said, he's a score first point guard. So even though he took on the role as a point guard with Charlotte, and the only reason he couldn't play 1 through 5 is because he only 6'1". But I mean, he was everything. He's everything for Charlotte, so he had no choice but to be the point guard. But if you go to LA, you can kind of not have to be the point guard, the person that brings it up the court.
That's
you
the
can
thing.
be that guy that kind of play off the ball and set himself up.
Can he play off the ball?
I mean, he can play off the ball. I mean, he more of a bring it up and create his own shot type of player.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty sure he's a veteran in the league. I'm pretty sure he could adapt. But even if he do go to Lakers, I feel like if it doesn't work as far as him and Lonzo, I mean, they'll easily ship Lonzo out because they won a championship now. You know what I'm saying?
Here's what the Lakers should do. The Lakers should get. Damn, they're not gonna be able to do that. So look, the Lakers should get Bradley Beal, and then they're gonna have Lonzo Ball, Bradley Beal, LeBron James, Kyle Kuzma, and then somebody on that starting five.
And that's what I'm saying. Ideally, all Lakers, if we're talking just purely Lakers, but I'm not looking at it from Kemba lens and just being like, okay, he can just play anywhere. I'm looking at it from Lakers perspective. They just need a scorer. They already got LeBron and Lonzo who can pass the ball. You got Kuzma who can play mid. I don't know if how is Kuzma mid range? Is mid range pretty good?
I think it's all right.
I mean, I know I don't think he's a shooter, like as far as threes is concerned. So you need somebody who's a more pure shooter. I mean, Kemba give you that, Bill give you that. You know what I'm saying? KD definitely give you that, but that's not going to happen. Anthony Davis, he don't give you a pure shooter. He's not like a pure shooter, but I mean, that's a whole nother thing too. It's like, would Anthony Davis necessarily fit?
Yeah. I feel like any player would fit with LeBron. So yeah, he would fit.
I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, they need more shooters. They need more pure shooters.
Yeah, that's facts. So like Anthony Davis would be a good pickup, but they still need some shooters.
Yeah, I mean, you become top heavy, but if your bench is some shit, you got niggas come off the bench you can't shoot, or even the start in the first five, you got niggas who just either can pass or do low post or mid range or just handle the ball. I mean, what is that really? You're not gonna be able to compete with a Warriors team, or you can't compete with people, teams that is able to put up a lot of points very quickly throughout a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing with the Lakers. As dysfunctional as their front office is, they still have LeBron, and that's the only thing that's making them, legit right now. Is LeBron.
Yeah,
and LeBron.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. What you gonna say?
No, I was about to change the subject to Kyrie, but go ahead. What you was saying about LeBron?
So I mean, LeBron is really he's only let's be honest. He didn't go there because of Magic. He didn't go there because of the whole Lakers prestige. He went there because he's setting up shit off the court. So why not take advantage of what you got with him there? Because you don't know how long LeBron going to be in the league. You know what I'm saying? Or LeBron could, opt to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, at the end of the day, y'all look at, LA and New York, the New York Knicks look like they're worse in their franchise history as far as, front office and all that shit. They look super dysfunctional. These are super dysfunctional franchises at this point. And the only reason, like I said, the Lakers somewhat got a bailout is because of LeBron. So they got to do something.
But all of these off-season things, it's going to be a wild off-season, bro. And don't be surprised if you see any big-time free agent go to the Brooklyn Nets, man. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, what does Brooklyn Nets have to offer any big-time free agent?
All right, so the Brooklyn Nets offer money and a beautiful culture. They have a strong culture over there. They feel like they're fighters, and they can win games. They're on the east side is a little bit weaker than the west side. So if any big-time free agent go over there.
I disagree with that for as far as the strength of the conference now. I think that Eastern Conference is definitely the stronger conference overall. Like you have Warriors, who is like the best team in NBA history. But then, when you go down the line of Western teams, the defense is not necessarily good. I'm not gonna sit here and say that Rockets could beat Bucks or could beat 76ers or beat the Raptors. I can't sit here and say that the Raptors can do that.
I feel like there's more Western good teams than Eastern teams. But I feel like the East are top heavy and that's it.
But obviously we're talking about playoffs. So when you say top heavy, you're gonna have to go through 76. You're gonna have to go through Toronto. You're gonna have to go through Boston. You're gonna have to go through. You know what I'm saying? You have to go through these. Bucks. You have to go through these teams when you're in the playoffs. Yeah, it's all cool and dandy when you have to fight and scrap during the regular season when niggas can inflate their numbers. But when it really matters, where does it matter? You know what I'm saying? It's the top heavy teams like you refer to.
But the Orlando Magic was in the playoffs this past season.
And Orlando Magic, they did what they needed to do. You know what I'm saying?
But would you say that team is better than the Spurs?
You can But ain't one the Spurs like the third best team in the West or fourth best team?
Nah, they was like lower bottom, like 7-8.
Yeah, because DeRozan. Let me see. But that's okay. That's the point I'm making though. When you say top heavy, you say in the top 2 or 3, or in this case 3, the top 3 or 4. I mean, when Kyrie leaves from Boston, it's not going to really be so much Boston anymore. But if we're just speaking off this past year, then that's 4 strong teams right there. Even though Boston ain't live up to their potential, there's still 4 strong teams in the East compared, that could beat the second best team in the West on any given night.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's true.
So if we're looking at overall, yeah, West got it. But if we're looking at the 4 best teams in the East right now, East got it. Outside of the Warriors.
How you feel about the Nuggets, man? Do you feel confident in them?
No.
Like going forward?
Ever since Todd Lawson left, I haven't had that much confidence.
Ah, man.
Ever since Todd Lawson, that's my nigga, man. First of all, let me give an early shout out to the North Carolina basketball team, college basketball team of, I believe, 08-09 season. You had Ty Lawson. You had motherfucking Tyler Hansborough. Now, a lot of people are going to remember that name. Sean Mays. You had, that's all I can remember at this point. But, yeah, shout out to that team. But, yeah, Ty Lawson my nigga, though. I ain't going to lie.
Yeah, he was like 5'11".
Yeah, 5'11". Very electrifying player.
Yeah, but you can't sleep on that guy Jokic, bro.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of his live games really. I done seen highlights. I really don't know how to feel about him. I just feel like it's one of those deals where it's kind of like you just gotta wait and see, because you don't know if it's one of those things where okay, he hot for a stretch and then now he's even if the stretch is the whole season, I don't know. I wasn't there for that stretch, but you just kind of, he's one of those guys you gotta wait and see, because you know how the Lynn Sanity thing went. How the fuck, what I'm saying, the Delvin Nova thing went. It's like it's one of those things where it's like let's just chill out, let's just wait and see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? You're in the Western Conference, so unless the super team breaks up, y'all ain't really doing shit as far as winning titles. So the best you're going to be is the equivalent of the 76ers and the 76ers of the West, at best.
Yo, did you just say Dellavedova, bro?
Yeah, that one. He had that stretch during the finals, or during the playoffs, where he was like getting off, and niggas was just constantly repeating his name.
But he didn't have as big of a craze as Jeremy Lin or Jokic. Like, he don't fit in that category.
No, well, I'm not. He does fit in that category because one, Jeremy Lin, that was only like a stretch of like 2 weeks. But because you're in New York, everything expands. So he is equivalent to Jeremy Lin, because I think his stretch was even longer, because it was like I don't know if it was the final series or it was just a little stretch during the playoffs, but it was a bigger deal because it was in the playoffs. Now, if you're talking about Jokic, who could potentially be in the whole season, that's a whole nother thing, because now that's a whole season that you're producing as opposed to 2 weeks or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's fair to say, okay, he's not in the same conversation as Jokic, but he's definitely in the same conversation as Jeremy Lin.
All right.
Jeremy Lin was just overhyped because he's in New York, the Big Apple. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just keep it a band.
Yo, one team that a lot of people are not talking about is the Dallas Mavericks. How is Luka and Porzingis going to work together next season?
I think that because of the whole shit that happened in New York with Porzingis, then that's the reason why I think he got shipped out to Dallas to begin with. On top of the fact, I mean, he was already saying he would want to leave, but I think that was all boiled down to what happened off the court. That's my personal opinion. I don't know shit. I'm not his lawyer. I'm not his agent. I don't fucking know. But I mean, it can work out if niggas, get at the end of the day. I know Allen Iverson, coined that the little shindig with the interview. Practice. Talk about practice. It's like, I mean, y'all niggas just gotta develop chemistry somehow. Whether it's that's playing in the summer leagues, to get, some summer teams together, or some shit like playing practice, do more in practice. You know what I'm saying? Hell, go to a strip club together, like something. Build a fucking chemistry, and she can potentially go right. At the end of the day, we see that you need a third superstar on the team though. Like, it ain't gonna be good enough to just have two, like the Houston situation.
I don't know. You could have two.
I mean, yeah, Raptors is kind of proving that you can kind of have one, but at the end of the day, literally their whole starting lineup was fucking injured. This was like literally the Warriors are playing with like that preseason team, and they still beat the Raptors in Game 2 because Siakam only scored 12 points. Your best player, who is also battling with an injury, scored 30-some points, and they still lost at home with their practice squad. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now.
Yeah, that was bad.
So, I mean, that proves that you need a second guy. And Siakam is that second guy, but he's just not a consistent second guy. So then you need that third guy to step up to the plate. Like, if you're going to go back to the Heat, LeBron, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, everybody want to clown Chris Bosh, but he stepped up when he needed to.
Yeah, without him, they're not winning those chips.
And Ray Allen, too.
Yeah. Them two were key pieces in those finals.
Which goes back to why Lakers need a fucking shooter. But anyways, we're on to the next shit. Yeah, I mean, that's my thing on it. Run off some stats. I'm about to go take a piss.
All right. So yeah, while G is going ahead and taking his break, just like how I did, just want to talk to you guys about the Game 3 prediction. I'm not sure if he did that, but I think Game 3 is going to be Warriors. I feel like it's going to be a close game. The game, I think it comes on at 9 o'clock tonight. It's going to be a huge game because the Warriors are beat up, and Kawhi is looking for revenge because he lost to a close game against the Warriors. I was in a bar the other night watching the game, and when Iguodala shot that 3 to close the game out, I was like, damn. Like,
now, do you think that when they left, because there's been a thing where they were saying, did he get left open because they were disrespecting him, or did he get left open because just their defense sucking? How do you feel about that?
What happened was this: the play broke down, everybody was gassed, and people went to the shooters on the team, and they hoped that Iguodala missed, but he actually made it because he always makes it. He always makes it when he's wide open. When he needs to make it, he always makes it. But I guess nobody got to him in time. So
yeah,
I think they didn't want to leave. I don't think they tried to leave him open, but they were all gassed because it was a broken play and it was going everywhere, and it was a fourth quarter, and things just happened. So he shot that 3.
Yeah, I think that.
Iguodala, like, he's clutch.
Yeah, he is a clutch player. He definitely is. Hold on, is Jarred on the phone? I added Jarred to the shit. Yo.
Nope, I guess not.
I guess not. This nigga.
supposed to be having a special guest on. I guess he's not available at the moment. Hopefully he becomes available.
Oh, so it's always that awkward. Okay, I still gotta get used to a Facebook Messenger. Yo, what's up, man?
Not much. Can you hear me good?
Yeah, it was an awkward pause because I'm still learning Facebook Messenger.
I understand.
And now we got you on. The great Jarred Stein in the building.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We good, man. We good.
Yeah, we doing all right, man. We like to do this with all of our guests. Just give the people a little bio about yourself. That's all.
Little bio. My name is Jarred Teague Stein. First name means king, middle name means poet, and last name means stone. That's pretty much been my life. I don't stop. I keep persevering. I keep on going, and I like to have fun. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That's cool. I like that. You said the middle name means poet?
Yep.
So are you into poetry?
Yeah, man, I write. Probably have about 400 plus of my poems. My professor when I was in college has been on my case for a couple of years now just to tell me to put my book together. So
wow.
I'll do that eventually at some point in time.
Yeah. How is that going, man? Because you've been talking about this book for the past 2 years, man.
It's going good, actually. What I've done at this point in time is I did a journal for pretty much 2017 pretty much is when I was doing 2018 is when I did the journal. And as far as how that's going, it's going well. I've been adapting to every single experience that I've gone through. I wrote several goals actually in that particular journal, and of those goals, I think I've attained about 5 of them, 5 of the 6 initially written.
You care to share some of them goals?
Oh yeah. I'm actually going right now to grab that journal so I can let you guys hear what I wrote down. I'll actually read
I like that.
First page. Yeah. I like to make sure that I'm not just saying something. You can actually hear what I wrote down. So I wrote on here, true fitness by the end of tax season. And then I said pretty much was eliminating all debt outside of student loans. A major progress with the book. Have fun, enjoy life. Get back out there. Travel, get on an airplane. That was one of the goals I put on there. Give back and push myself out of my comfort zone. So I wrote on, what was it? January 1st, 2018. Learn from it or run from it. I started this sheet. I'll read that first page, just a little entry that I put in there. I started this first year reflecting on all the sacrifice and loss of my past 3 years and the growth to get back to where I am now. 31, single, without a mother, and still seeking a goal that I've had since 2009. My mindset is better, my stance on life is positive, and I claim what I want. I speak into existence what I seek. Today is a new chapter. 2017 was a year of development, chock full of lessons of the heart, lessons of value. It was that journey that allowed me to find my purpose. I was placed here to be a voice of encouragement. I know that all the things work to good for those who love the Lord. On hard days, I will look back to this day so that I can move forward with gladness. Thank you, God. So I wanted to write something positive my first entry, because whenever you're on that journey, it's one of those things called a process, which Gene definitely taught me. And it's pretty much a case of you can't conquer Rome in a day. You have to just keep at it.
Word. Yeah, that's dope. I like that one, because a lot of people, they don't realize that you can do things. All you got to do is keep at it. Like, they think it's an overnight type thing. You know what I mean? Especially anyone who is trying to be an artist. You got to do shit every day to become whatever you want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. That hit volume for me, because it was like, dang, man, you're light years ahead of me as far as what you trying to do, your intelligence level, all that. And it's like the fact that I was able to make that difference in your life, man. That's impactful hearing that. You know what I'm saying?
Man, iron sharpens iron, man. So don't ever undersell yourself, because honestly, when I was at my lowest, you gave me that reassurance of knowing that I was going the right way. I've had a lot of help along the way as far as accomplishing goals and just staying at it. And January 3rd of this year was really one of the things that I was able to manifest into existence by the grace of God. I'm actually purchased my house, and it was literally just grinding. And Gina tell you, because he used to work with me at one of my little side hustles, and we were just talking, and I told him, I said, man, I'm just going to grind, I'm going to save, I'm going to stock, I'm going to keep it moving, and I'm going to get this house. And by the grace of God, that story's far more liberating than anything else I probably would have to share.
Yeah.
What's ironic about that is he got his house the same day as my birthday.
Ooh, this is a great moment in history, man.
Yeah. Great moment in black people history, man.
Yeah, especially black men, because for the longest time, black men didn't. We really didn't. Give credit to each other like the way that it just happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, the most we would do as black men to each other, like, yo, you a cool nigga, man.
Yeah.
The fact that, that happened right here, it was a genuine moment, you know what I'm saying? We need to do that more as black men.
Definitely. I mean, honestly, accomplishing what I accomplished is one of those things where I don't put it this way, I don't hide how I went about it, because I want other people to have that type of liberation. We kind of get this almost stereotype of being crabs in a barrel all the time, and I'm trying to break it.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's why. Oh, I'm glad you said that, bro. Y'all know Lil Nas X, right? The one who made Old Town Road.
Man, I just heard that. Man, I found out he was released it a while ago, and the fact that they're trying to split his progress. I mean, he was smart, inventive, and took something that people were doing so bland and remixed it. And if you listen to the words, it's real simple, but it's very much a true metaphor for the experience that everyone's going through right now in America. I mean, he's trying to carve his own way, and people are trying to oppress him, so to speak.
Exactly. And I'm a huge supporter due to the fact that he's, innovative in that aspect, because like I took this new initiative to just support anybody who is black and successful, as long as it's, a positive thing for the greater good. Like, anybody who's black and successful, I'm not going to hate on them, man.
Exactly. It's one of those things where you don't necessarily have to agree with it, but you have to respect that someone's going out there and doing it for themselves.
Exactly. So yeah. Like I support him, and like, honestly, it started when Issa Rae said it. She was talking to a reporter, she was interviewing her, and she was like, so who are you rooting for during the, I forget what it was some kind of awards, and then she said, anybody who's black. And I was like, word, you know what? Like that, like what she said was very simple, but it stuck with me ever since she said that.
It's one of those things that you're kind of afraid to say sometimes, because I think America at large tries to pigeonhole you and put you into this situation where you can't have, I won't say racial pride, but you can't have pride of self. Like every other group in America, there's not an issue if you have pride. So if you have like Chinese Americans, it's like, this is our history, this is our ancestry. You have Hispanic Americans, this is our history, this is our ancestry. You have like all these different other groups. But whenever it comes to, Black Americans, African Americans, whatever way you want to phrase it, it's always like you have to have a partial experience. You can only appreciate yourself in bits and pieces, where everyone else has the ability to appreciate themselves as a whole. And I think that kind of stems based off of the history of the country, and then on top of that, it also speaks to where we are right now, a fragmented people.
Right.
Yeah, that goes back to what was that? that movie you was talking about, or show you was talking about earlier, Kyle?
When They See Us on Netflix.
I'm gonna write that down. I haven't seen that yet. I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah,
too.
write that down, bro. You have to be emotionally ready for that. So get yourself emotionally ready for it, because it's going to make you angry. It's going to make you sad. But, you know, all we can do is preparation and try to build a better world.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah, you was about to say something, G?
G?
Oh, yeah. So, Jared, yeah, because we was talking about that earlier. So how would you prep your kids for this world?
I think that's a great question, and it's something I'm still struggling with right now. I think education, and not so much like a scholastic education, but education of self, is something that I would use to prepare them, because, you know, you have all this political correctness, you have all these organizations that are trying to tell you that you have to say it this way, you have to do it this way, you have to do that, the other. But honestly, no one knows the experience and can really teach the experience other than someone who's come up through it, been influenced by it. And I think you have to be responsible. If you want to have the difference, you got to set the tone, you got to be the difference. Like right now, I'm not married, I don't have any kids or anything like that, but when I have kids, I'll be able to say, look, before I met your mom, before I did this, that, and the other, I grinded, I hustled, I did this, I attained a house at X age, and keep on going from there. So that's how I would prepare them, letting them know my experiences, letting them know where I fell short, expressing to them the importance of educating yourself. Like, if I could go back right now in time, one thing I would have done is taken seriously learning how to speak Spanish when I was in high school. I mean, I understood parts of it. I didn't put full energy into it, but something as simple as that, because if you look at it, it's projected by like 2040, that's going to be the majority of the country. And that's why you have so many policies and legislation going on right now, so many racial tensions, because the majority at large feels as though they're in danger. But it's not like anyone's trying to take over. It's just people are doing things differently. That's why you have the whole debate for abortion. I mean, I would teach my kids stuff like that, because I feel like it's one thing to get a job, it's one thing to go to school, but I think you really need to know how to hone your skill set, and then after honing your skill set, learn how to make a business out of it, because my goal eventually by the time I'm 40 is to be working for myself and not necessarily for another company. I'm a little bit behind at the moment, but I still keep that in mind. I still keep pushing. And one of the things that I think I could do is by releasing that book. So, you know, it'd be funny to write the book, release it, and have it do well, and then to have to look back and say to yourself, you know, if you had been a little bit braver so many years ago, you could have had the success earlier. And I acknowledge that right now. So that's why I'm putting the energy into writing and putting myself out there.
Do you believe in wasted time? Or are you one of those that you go based off experience, you just appreciate, you know, the shortcomings, and you just move forward?
I'll say as I've matured and gotten older, I appreciate experiences for what they were. It's easy to look back in the glass and say to yourself, man, I wish, but then it's one of those situations where you get stuck in the past, stagnant in the present, and fractured in the future. So if you can't take the sum of its whole, then I feel like you haven't grown. So for myself, I used to say, man, I can't believe I wasted so much time, and maybe it was a relationship, maybe it was a job, or whatever the situation is. But now that I look back in it without having the blinders on, having a full spectrum view of it, I can see that every single piece, each bit of time was needed to cultivate, to groom me to where I need to be today. I wouldn't be the man I am today had I not gone through those hardships. So I'm appreciative of it. But now, knowing that information, I'm very aggressive with how I go forward. I'm trying to make sure that I push harder.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I feel like this generation, there's more of us that have an entrepreneurial mindset, because we're starting to understand what we need to do rather than what we want to do. I mean, yeah, you know, what we want to do as well, but back then, the the ceilings were different. You know, work for a company, even further back, you know, maids and all of that whatnot. But now these days, women are getting jobs of power, and us blacks is getting into a lot of entrepreneur businesses like t-shirt companies or laundromat, like having a franchise Chick-fil-A, like different things, man.
It's definitely something that's necessary because, you know, you can sit here and listen to civil rights leaders preach about how we need this or that, but unless you're part of the solution, unless you're teaching younger kids, hey, you might want to start budgeting and accounting for that degree, or you might, instead of doing this, want to look up a trade. Like, there are certain things that you could do while in high school to set yourself up so that you can make money. Just an example of this that I really was inspired by was they have this network called, I think it's called InstaChef, where they talk about Instagram chefs who are working out of their kitchens, out of their own homes, producing meals and whatnot, and they're killing it. It's the underground scene, but it's that whole entrepreneurial spirit that you were talking about that's being manifested. And when you are thinking outside the box, it opens up opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know one guy in Durham. He came from the ground up, man. I think it's called Shrimp and Pasta Dankery. I used to get food from him. He used to cook it at his crib, and he used to deliver it to people and all that good stuff. And now he has a food truck, and he got signed for his LLC, and he's branding himself. He's taking like he's having photo shoots with models wearing his gear. Like he's grinding, and I just want to shout him out. That was a little quick shout out, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, Jared know all the fucking spots in Charlotte.
Oh, word.
Yeah, the people that run down, man.
Man, Charlotte's definitely, you got different spots here, but one thing that does come to mind, that just to piggyback off what you were saying, there's a space in Greensboro and I think Raleigh, Durham, called Dame's Chicken and Waffles. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Hell yeah.
But so to make that connect all the way through, if you've ever been there, if you haven't been there, the service is amazing. It's black owned, black operated. But the biggest thing about it is the service is, when you think of service, most people always talk about Chick-fil-A, but honestly, when I went there, the service was amazing. The food was excellent. I was talking about it for probably about 3 days. I took a picture of it, and everyone who looked at my Facebook, they were like, oh my gosh, like, where's this place? And then on top of that, I think they were talking about bringing that to Charlotte as well. So that's one of the things that I wanted to elaborate on, because it's like, you know, just because you see something in one space doesn't mean that you can't take it or spread it.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, the food is lovely over there. Lovely.
Gotta try it out.
Definitely. I mean, the one thing about it that I'll tell you is the waffle, like, you have different types of textures. So for this waffle, I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, is this cooked all the way at first? Because, you know, I'm coming to it all critical. But when you, like, take that flaky waffle, that soft waffle, married with that crisp, like, it's like corn dusted type of chicken, and then you can just pick how many wings you want. I mean, the smear, oh my gosh, the fruit smear for that butter. Oh my gosh.
Woo. Yeah, man. I fell in love with the place, man.
Yeah, damn. I know this place.
Yeah, man.
I'm telling you, man, food honestly is one of those things that I think provides opportunity, because if you look at it historically speaking, most people who immigrate to America, they've done things like created a business as far as serving the cuisine, serving native food. And the funny thing about it is, it's not even that you had to be the best in the world, it's just you had to be proficient at it. Because I'm sure that when certain people came over here, it's not like they were like a chef recognized, but they just understood that here's what I know, here's what I have, I'm gonna package it, and then they shared it with other people who then got that taste for it.
Yeah.
Word. That actually reminds me of a documentary that I seen on Netflix. I forget the name of it, but it was about women chefs, and it explained the discrimination that goes on in the chef world, and I had no clue. Like,
oh yeah,
like okay, so yeah, they don't get recognized, they don't get respect. Like, there's top head executive chefs as women, and they don't get the glory that the men do.
It's one of those things that unfortunately it's kind of ironic because women, if you look at it statistically speaking, graduate college at a higher rate. They trend in a way to be more successful, a whole lot more smart, a whole lot just more proficient. But because of society at large, and I hate blaming certain things, but I just got to call it for what it is. I think the biggest thing that holds women back at this point in time is it's like, you know, you're in a bad spot, but instead of cooperating with those around you, you still kind of default to the norm. So, for example, to piggyback off of that, like, for example, if one of the biggest issues you always hear about black people is, why don't you guys work together? And then you've been conditioned to kind of like compete against each other. It's the same concept when it comes to women too, because, you know, they're competing as resources, whether it's guys, opportunity, looks, whatever situation. Everyone's pitted against each other instead of being able to sit down and recognize that, hey, if we work together, if we collaborate, we may be marginalized right now, but if you had, for example, women piggybacking and partnering up together and saying, hey, maybe might be a male-dominated industry, but we know how to cook. We have things that we bring to the table. Mm-hmm. Let's partner up. Let's build up. It would take you out of that position, because it's kind of crazy that all the scholastic achievements and statistics support and show that women are outperforming men in a lot of areas, but the pay gaps are still an issue at this point in time. Mm-hmm. Representation is still an issue at this point in time. Control over your own body is still an issue at this point in time. So when I think about those issues, I think to myself, it's like, if women, not to say that all don't, but if as a whole you thought in terms of numbers, a lot of the issues that you're experiencing would disappear. Same thing with black people. We could sit here all day long and talk about how this is unfair or this company was prejudiced against us, but if we did the same thing that was done in the civil rights era, which basically was collaborating, pulling your resources together, Black Wall Street was a real thing, successful, thriving, better than areas that you would have wanted to go to before. That's why a lot of those areas were like firebombed, burned down, all sorts of horrendous things. But if you look at the history, it shows that it wasn't a case that we were just an alternative. We were thriving. We were coming up with inventions. We were capital of market. I mean, you still even have a few remnants right now as far as like the hair cream and whatnot, but you had a lot of people who were domineering the industry.
Now, I heard you mention control over your own body. Expound on that. Like, what do you mean by that?
So it's like when you look at the news, you'll hear the big issue about Roe v. Wade as far as whether a woman should have the right to an abortion or not having the right to an abortion. And when you think about it from just a logistics aspect, personally, this is just a theory of mine. I don't think it's really a case that people want to oppress their rights. I think the issue is because you're about to be outnumbered, you need people to repopulate. Because of the economy right now, because of student debt, because of all the other issues that are going on right now, people are smart. They're like, I can't afford this. I can't afford to have a kid. But if you're doing that, if you're self-regulating population, and then with the new tax law being changed, you don't really have an incentive to have kids anymore because you don't get the same perks when you had kids with the new tax law versus the old. So a lot of people are just waiting to have kids, waiting to get married, waiting for everything. And then you're not replenishing the population. So the government at large has to do something. So the smartest or the most logical thing is, whether you want to or not, we need you to have kids. We're going to change the law so you don't have control, again, over your body, so that we can produce and make more replacements. Because right now, I think we're at like statistical lows for like the past 30, 40 years as far as populating. Now, if you quantify it down and look at different demographics, specifics, certain ones will reproduce more because of, faith-based initiatives and whatnot. But as a whole, we're not producing at the rate that we were before.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. How you feel about marriage, Jarred?
I personally think it's still a beautiful thing. I haven't necessarily found the one that, I'm going to jump into that contract with, obviously. But I do think that it's still something that is necessary. I think it's something that's worthwhile if you go in it with the right mindset. Whether you're religious or not, I think if you can go into the situation equally yoked, you'll be more than likely successful versus just, I like you, you look good, let's have a kid, let's get married. I think you got to dig deeper into it. You got to be, first, I think you need to get yourself established as far as being sufficient on your own to some degree. Not completely, but just being able to be comfortable being by yourself. Because if you can't be comfortable with you, how can you be comfortable with someone else?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, I noticed you mentioned contract. So how do you feel about that business aspect of marriage?
The business side of it, I look at it a little bit differently now. Before, I used to say to myself, you should insure yourself, get a prenuptial agreement, or just hold off on getting married for X amount of years until you know the person. But realistically speaking, I feel like if you can get on board with what you're looking for, like the dating process is really pretty much the weeding out process. So if you have those social conversations up front, you'll know whether or not you need that contract or not. I don't look at a prenuptial agreement as a negative, because if you think about it, the concept of marriage in and of itself is a contract. Before you put a prenuptial agreement on it, a prenuptial agreement is almost just like having insurance on your marriage. You get insurance for everything else, like your car, you get insurance for your body, you get insurance. You can't really name a single thing out here that you don't get insurance. You could buy a video game system and you can get insurance on that just in case it breaks. So it gives you kind of more of an incentive to stick with it, to not just quit when things get tough, because if you know that, hey, I'm going my separate ways and I'm just leaving with what I came in with, you might not have the gumption to say, I'm just going to quit. You're going to work it out. Yeah. That's kind of my thought on it.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah, go ahead, G.
Yeah, go ahead. You about to get in your bag. Go ahead.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that, man. I went through a series of thoughts about marriage. One of the series that I went through was the fact that, like, I looked at marriage and I'm like it the way that it is, the structure that it's in right now, it shouldn't be that way. Because if you're in love with somebody, if you love somebody, why should we need to go somewhere to get a license to marry? Why should we go to divorce court if we have disagreements and we can't even be in a relationship anymore? So for a third party to tell us what we need to do with our relationship, if you really think about that concept, it's crazy to me.
It's not even about the relationship. I think, for me, I like to think outside the box. And if you really think about almost every single law, most laws I don't think are really written based off of right or wrong. I think most of the laws are pretty much structured in a way where, how can you keep control? Because if you think about it, it's like this. You keep certain people married, you keep them hitched together. That means you keep them in a situation where they're likely going to do certain things with a certain outcome. So, for example, when people are married, whether they're going through bad stuff or not, they're still messing around, they're still producing kids, they're still replacing people that are, for lack of better words, going to die. Because, no one lives forever. And with that machine, and I say machine intentionally, you have it structured so that everyone keeps on going. So, for example, the marriage concept, you get married legally, and then you have recognition. So then you get certain benefits. The benefits of, I can be underneath this person's insurance, or, I can will this property to this person, or, I have whatever fringe benefits are important to you, have those benefits together. So that's how they entice you and get you into that contract. And then afterward, it's a case of they're able to control where you go, how you move, what you move. I mean, if you really look at it from the top down, it keeps everything stabilized by having that particular institution, and it boxes out those that they really don't care for. So that's why I think, honestly, right now it's such a big issue in America, because certain segments of the population, well, previously, I should say, had the ability versus others didn't. And it's a case of, how can I get those dollars moving? How can I have a number of people paying into my system? Because if you don't have people being born, if you don't have these types of unions, most people are looking around right now and they're saying to themselves, you know, I don't really need to reproduce right now because I can afford it. And if you keep that attitude for, you know, 2-3 generations, you know, you kind of fall off. Where are you going to have people to recruit from before sending them off to different countries as far as soldiers?
Yep.
How are you going to organize your medical system? You're not going to have enough crop or capital to do that. There are certain countries right now, I think, with certain regulations. I think in Tokyo, I believe, Japan, they were reporting record lows as far as people populating. Just, you know, marriage rate was kind of wish-wash, but as far as having kids, it's decreased so drastically now that they're having issues. And then with the social structures that we have nowadays, you have different social media outlets. You don't have the same organic communication structure that allows for that natural, I meet someone I like, they meet me, we get yoked up together. A lot of people are kind of just stuck in a situation where it's like, where do I go to find these people if I am past whatever mark, whether it's an age mark, whether it's a scholastic mark, whatever the situation is. It's kind of hard to interact because a lot of people aren't comfortable interacting.
And that's why I think porn is still legal. We gotta get some light in this motherfucker somehow. That's why that motherfucker's still legal. Motherfuckers still be on that shit.
Hell yeah.
You feel me?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because honestly, that's another form of control too. Because if you think about it, for example, prostitution in most states is illegal, and you got to ask yourself, why is that illegal? Not stripping away all the moral aspects of everything. It's a case of enterprise. It's a situation where you have the ability to charge a set price based off of service rendered.
Yep.
And it's something that you don't have to report. There's no way to track it. There's no way to regulate it. And then on top of that is a situation of, you're not going to the government for it. So you're having these situations, you're making this money, you're doing all these things without the government involved. So more than, you know, a moral issue about it, I think it's more so a situation of a control. Because, for example, if a lady or a woman were to go out there and say to herself, you know, I'm liberated, I'm sexually free, this is the going rate, you know, I like to scratch my itch as well. She's in a situation where she's empowered. She can basically do whatever she wants. You know, she's safe for whatever the situation is. She can literally make a lot for herself. But then you also have to think about it on the flip side of it. You know, is this a safe environment? Still use those arguments, but really it's a situation or a case of a free printing press that doesn't involve the government. I mean, most of the jobs that you're involved with, the fraternal orders like police officer, firefighter, doctor, architect, all of those organizations have gateways as far as entry is concerned, and it's regulated by the government as far as whether you're licensed. In other words, the government's going to get a piece of what you're doing. But for something like that, not regulated, it's a situation where they don't have control over you.
Right.
If someone can't regulate the dollars that are going to your pocket, then that makes you a dangerous individual. You can go around and contribute money to whatever enterprise you want to contribute to. If you don't like a law, you can unionize. You can create a situation where you can rebel. And that, honestly, I think is the main issue behind that.
Yeah, that's the pendulum definitely puts the power in the pussy, for real.
Yeah, oh yeah. That is the strongest power. That in music.
Yeah. So yeah, Jarred know a thing or two about music too.
I mean, I would assume everybody knows a thing or two about music.
This dude know to the fucking like the fucking specifics of the details and shit.
The behind the scenes.
Man, flex your shit. This nigga like a low key producer type shit.
Nah. I mean, we were just talking before back in the day, as far as different artists that came out with certain things, and how, for example, Beyonce. I'm not gonna say anything negative because I know you got a big audience, but Beyonce sampled. I think Crazy Love or whatnot. She was sampling the Shy Lights. So the beat, when you hear that da 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 da, and I'm saying to myself, "Yo, that's Shy Lights." You have 50 Cent who sampled off of Al Green. You have daggone Biggie who sampled off of Isley Brothers. I mean, you have so many artists that will do certain things that have sampled from things that are just way back. But I'm not knocking it. But it's just a case of it's like, where is the original composition? Where's the artwork? So for me, whenever I'm listening to something, I'm always trying to hear, has this been sampled or is this something new?
Word. So wait. So whoa. Okay. So you heard the sample from Beyonce's song, and what was the reaction towards it?
I mean, I like I'll put it this way: she did a good job with it. She didn't mess it up because there are certain songs where it's like they mess it up.
Right.
And for the ones that I've named, they did a good job with the remix as far as using the beat, but it's still a situation where it's like, for example, people will say, well, this artist is so great and they're so talented. But I'm thinking to myself, the major key songs that they've been using, the samples are pretty heavy or laden in it. I mean, you have someone like Michael Jackson or Prince, just to name two that most people are very familiar with. Both of them were musical geniuses. I mean, if they didn't want it to, they could make something original and not even have to touch a sample. I mean, I think at the age of, 17 or 18, Prince was playing like 18, 20 some odd different instruments. You have Michael Jackson. He grew up in front of the world. Kid could dance, kid could sing, kid could compose. I mean, he was doing everything. Bought the masters to the Beatles. I mean, these are people who are thinking ahead of the curve. Sam Cooke. I think he was one of the first pioneers who owned his own masters, and the industry kind of went after him and beat him up and some other stuff because, he owned his own music. That whole concept of ownership, I'll speak on that a little bit. It's amazing to me how similar the music industry is to the old school sharecropping, because it's like you're able to go on the farm, get a few crumbs, but the other person owns the land. So if you look at the music industry landscape right now, it used to be a case that we had CDs that we would own. Like I would purchase a CD. I physically had that CD. If I wanted to import it into my computer, I could do that. And then slowly but surely, these companies said, you know what? I want you to pay a subscription. You can play it as much as you want, but just pay the subscription. And at first, it sounds great because it's like, I don't have to go out and pop, $15, $20 for a CD. I have access to all these songs. All I got to do is pay this little subscription. And it sounded good at first. And I said, this is going to be the death of the nation, because nowadays, if you think about it, before you get your paycheck, before you clear taxes and everything else, if you have anything on automatic draft, which most of these subscription services require, you're paying at least about anywhere from 5 to 10 different services before you even see any of what you gross. For example, a lot of people watch cable. A lot of people have like a Tidal, Apple Music, or whatever else. Netflix, Hulu, all these subscriptions. Now, on their own, if you only had one subscription, it's really not that big a deal. But when you think about how many subscriptions you have, or what probably the average household has, which I would guess would be anywhere between 8 to 10 some odd subscriptions, that's a lot of wealth that's disappearing overnight. You don't have ownership over it. If you stop paying your subscription, you can't listen to that music anymore. Whereas before, you bought the CD, you owned it, you had it.
Right.
Car industry, you have a lot of pushes for leasing vehicles. And everyone's like, well, you get a new vehicle and you get to show out and you have the newest one every year. But when you think about it in the long term, you go over your lease, you're locked into doing another contract, or else you have to pay overage charges. Whereas if you own a vehicle, you can ride the wheels off, save up, and buy whatever you want. So it's that mindset that you get programmed into of instant gratification, in my opinion, that kind of has swayed everything. So instead of building an album in the music industry, because I wanted to tie it back into that, now it's like, I'm just going to go for a track. Or if you look at the albums that are released, before it used to be like minimum 15, 10 tracks. Now on average, you're seeing maybe 7 tracks for an album. And I'm saying to myself, when did we reduce the requirement for what we were looking for? I'm not knocking it. I understand that things change and things are different now, and you don't have the same landscape to compete on that same structure, but I feel like we're paying for things that we're only getting pieces of, but we're still paying the old prices for it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that's facts, bro. That's definitely facts. It's like a large pool of music, but you're continuing to throw money into that pool without owning the music.
See, that's my thing with streaming. Period. Honestly, it's like I bought a gold chain last week, right? And you know, as soon as I go on Facebook or go on Google or YouTube, now I got all these ads for fucking gold chains and all this.
Yes, because anything that is free, you're the product, is what they say online. And it's so true, because I mean, honestly, I made a purchase for some shoes, and then you go on Facebook, it's in your banner. Or you go to some other site. I mean, the amount of access that they have to you is just insidious.
I think that just ties back to when we were talking about earlier about black businesses starting a small business. I think now that the streaming and you know the government or whoever is collecting these data, whether it's social media, whether it's the quote unquote Black Mirror, which is your phone, or whoever is collecting the fucking data, I think is putting those mom and pop services at a lesser rate. Even though now you have access to social media and you can kind of promote your shit more, it's like you're still competing against Disney. You're still competing against Netflix. You're still competing against these big corporations that's continuing to grow their monopoly.
It makes you marginalized. I mean, honestly, that's the biggest thing that you're talking about is marginalization on not just a national or probably global scale. Because if you think about, like you were talking about, when's the last time that you went to a spot to get something to eat and you're like, man, that was something good, and no one knew about it? Like, you have such saturation of the market that I don't care if I go to Greensboro, Raleigh, Chicago, you're going to have the same little shopping outlet mall with the same stores. You're going to have your Salsaritas. You're going to have your Chick-fil-A and your McDonald's position at a diagonal. You're going to have maybe a BP and the Exxon or 7-Eleven. You're going to have the Best Buy away from the PetSmart. I mean, it doesn't matter what side of town you are, whether you're in North Carolina, Georgia, there's a blueprint that's copied and stamped everywhere you go. Mm. But the crazy part about it, too, is it's like on the opposite side of that, it's you have such a drive to the internet as far as your purchases that a lot of the brick and mortars, which traditionally those jobs are reserved for, your teenagers, they're reserved for all sorts of segments of the population, but they're drying up. So when it comes to trying to get a job, it's like, where do you go to get a job? I used to be able to just walk into the mall with confidence and say, hey, I want a job. Now it's like, we don't have the hours, or we have to close this store. And it's affecting people on such a large scale that, honestly, if we're not careful, there's this video that I saw about maybe 2 years ago which said humans need not apply. There's such a push for automation. There's such a push for scaling back on employees. And I'm thinking to myself, I understand companies need to make a profit and whatnot, but if it gets to the point where people aren't even employed, who's going to buy the product?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah, man. There's producers and there's consumers.
Yes, and we as a nation are very much the consumer. I mean, as far as production is concerned, look at the auto industry. If you really need something to talk about, Detroit, Michigan, Chicago, and whatnot, those jobs dried up I mean, they assemble the vehicles in America. They're not produced or made in America. They're assembled. All the parts are like outsourced, imported back in, and then you have some sort of frame and a few people who are employed to assemble it. So your American-made car isn't even American-made. A lot of the jobs are outsourced, and then you have the state, local government that pays subsidies to big corporations for them to promise to bring, 1,000, 8,000, however many jobs. A year and a half to 2 years, once they get there, they relocate. They haven't paid back through tax dollars the cost, and that gets passed on to you and me and everyone else. So you have this abandoned, dilapidated building that's new construction, but no one else can use it because it was for that one company. And, well, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with inflation, with everything costing a lot more than it did, early 2000s, 90s, 80s, whatever, but then pretty much the pay is pretty much the same. What would be your advice to a person with a part-time or full-time job at just a regular, brick and mortar job that you speak of? What is your advice to saving money or investing or kind of getting out of your situation instead of continuing that loop of being in poverty?
What I'll advise is I'll share what I did as far as getting to where I'm at right now. So you can work at a company and you can be qualified for different positions, but it's not guaranteed that you're going to get that opportunity at that company. Now, the average person is going to say, well, I tried, I went to that company, and that's too bad, and then they'll go out on a Friday, Saturday, party, drink, whatever, turn up, go back to work on, Monday and do it all over again. So the concept that I came up with for myself personally is you need to ask yourself this one question. Is my goal more important than the sacrifice I'm willing to make? Because if you're willing to make the sacrifice and that outweighs the goal, you'll obtain it. But if the goal is outweighed by the level of what you're willing to sacrifice, you'll never get it. So for me, I took 2 years out and I said, look, I'm not going out. I'm not doing this. I'm getting myself a second job, a third job. And I worked in some brick and mortars. I prepared taxes. I worked at a gym. And then I also worked my main job. So I was working like 3 jobs, and I did it for a certain amount of time. And I'm not telling everyone that you have to go out there and just get extra, but I will say is you have to ask yourself the question, what do I want and what am I willing to sacrifice? So, for example, for someone who's trying to stack up or save, I would advise looking at your local community college. And I say that because you never know what type of credentials or certificates you could possibly get to put yourself in a better situation. Like, I went and looked into taking a course as far as real estate is concerned, and that helped me as far as my negotiation when I was going to get my house. That helped me make more contacts. I think, honestly, if you take, it can cost, say, $100, $200, but you waste that on some shoes, you might waste that on some beer, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Make the sacrifice up front. Invest in yourself, whether it's a credential, whether it's just getting out of your comfort zone, or even if it is just working at another brick and mortar. Build your network, because honestly, when I did that built my network up so much more that it put me in a better situation. I was exposed to people who had different mindsets. I was exposed to different options. I was exposed to just more. So just get out of your comfort zone. If you, for example, want to go out of the country, your dream was, I need to go get a trip. Well, if you think about it, if you were to work on average about 4 additional hours over the course of a week, we'll just say 3 hours additional after your main job, and you save that up. So if you're working 5 days out the week, 3 additional hours, regardless of the amount that you're getting paid per rate, you could average anywhere between $300 to $400 a month over a 2-week period. If you take that job and you stack that money for that 1 year, you'll have the money you need to go on that trip that you want to go out of the country. You'll have the money that you need to pay that car off. You'll have the resources to change your narrative. But if you do the same thing, if you refuse to sacrifice anything, you'll be in the same situation. It's like going to the gym. If you don't stick with it and be consistent with it and push yourself, you're not going to achieve the results. So I try to do that in all areas of my life, and that's pretty much how I've gotten to where I am now.
Yeah, that's great. And putting one foot in front of the other, hitting one goal off the tree one by one.
So Jarred, since we're a sports podcast, I do remember you watching the Super Bowl with me and my family last year, and you had an interesting take on the Patriots. So do you care to share?
I'm probably gonna get hazed here, but yeah, I'll share. I watched that and I was saying to myself, I never really understood why everyone would go for the Patriots. I'm not really big into football, but my thought process was it's like the lowest scoring Super Bowl in history or something like that. And I'm looking at it and I said to myself, man, like, I thought it was interesting how the Patriots every single time constantly have been winning. And I was talking about how it's kind of like the narrative for the country, where it felt like it was being political almost. It was like they needed to win because you're trying to rally people together. They needed to win because of this, that, and the other. But the biggest thing I think we were talking about when we were looking at the Super Bowl was, I said, I think it's amazing how everyone is getting together and watching this, and it's still kind of like a plantation situation. And then I think you said to me, like, what do you mean by plantation situation? I said, you have the owners making all this money off the players, and you still have the players on the field. And I said, if you look at the field for what it is, it's like, you're doing the cakewalk. You run those yards, you get a couple of dollars. But when it comes in terms of ownership, it's like, who actually owns the team? Who has influence? It's like you're a participant. They get tired of you, they get rid of you. They get tired of you, they get rid of you. In basketball, at least you have some individuals who are starting to become part owners. Even if it is just entertainers right now, there's some sort of representation, whereas when it comes to football, it seems as though everyone's boxed out of participation. Yet, that's the one sport that everyone rallies and gets behind. So it was just kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, they're actually talking about getting rid of the owner, the name, the title, name owner, and replacing it with like I think they said chairman or some shit like that. There've been a couple players that's kind of voiced their opinion on it, so they're actually considering changing that title name to chairman.
Man, that ain't gonna do nothing, man. It's still gonna be the same
situation.
Energy.
It's the same situation because, honestly, when you look at it, it's like, look at Kaepernick. This man, when you're looking at the stats, not even your opinion, but just the stats, there were other individuals that got contracts that he outclassed by miles. And honestly, it was one of those situations where no one was held accountable. Like, no one was held accountable. When you had the NBA, the Sterling guy said whatever he said, they were like, you know what? We're making too much money. They said, I may not necessarily agree with getting rid of him, but you can't mess your money up. They took care of it quick. With the NFL, it was a situation where it was like, well, we had this reason, we had that reason. No one really ever addressed it. And I think what's really interesting is, if you know your history, the idea of literally running up and down a field and getting paid for it and not being able to have ownership, and if you have an industry, you're thrown out. It's the same way they did the slaves on the plantation. If you're really strong and you can get the bale of cotton, they toss you a little extra this, that, and another, but the moment you fell off, you got kicked off the field. Even more interesting enough, the reason why they were talking about how a mule wasn't by law obligated or required to plow more than an acre is, an acre roughly equates out to a football field. So you're still in the same situation, just a different format, a different placement of the mat, so to speak.
Yeah, man. I knew there was a reason why I stopped playing football, man.
Yeah, that's
Don't get me wrong. I think it's amazing what certain individuals do on the field as far as running up and down and making the plays and whatnot. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying if you're looking at it from a conscious level, I feel like you got to be a little more conscious on a lot of things. Not to say that you can't enjoy a football game, but you have to be crazy political about everything. But I'm just saying, just observe it for what it is. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, then you're going to be in a situation where, for example, in the NBA, it used to be a situation where they didn't want black people to play. Now they're overly recruiting. In football, same situation, but the level of respect, in my opinion, is a little bit different. Like, you have the deals that are going in ways where they're actually set or scheduled to be able to become billionaires. I mean, the stake that Steph Curry had in, Under Armour. The negotiations that LeBron has for some of his endorsements and what he's been doing. You have more people who are attaining amounts of money where they're able to have influence, where they're able to not be fearful of speaking out. Whereas in football, it's like, I got someone that I can replace you with at any given time. You're always fearful of everything. And I mean, in any sport, you're fearful of it, but the attitude is a whole lot different, in my opinion, when it comes to football versus when it comes to basketball.
Do you feel like the football had more of a crabs in a barrel effect when it comes to the black people, that the black players that is participating in the NFL? Do you feel like because it seemed like if they all took a stand, like when Kaepernick, when that whole thing happened, if they all took a stand, then you'll have a different league right now. But I just feel like let me get mine, nigga. You do your shit, and I'm gonna just get mine. Like, do you feel like that's more of the case, or do you feel like that have nothing to do with it?
I think honestly, it's just a climate situation. I think you got the changes that you needed to have with the NBA during a different time frame or administration, but with football, with it being such a political sport in and of itself, it's one of those situations where you know who you're dealing with. Like, a lot of people would say, I'm not going to rock the boat because this is my ticket. All I know how to do is run. All I know how to do is play. And this is what I've driven for all my life. I'm not going to become an activist just because one guy didn't get signed. And I understand that. I mean, people have to eat. But I also think in terms of, it's when you overlook that one situation and it puts you in a different situation. So, for example, you try to pull that stuff in the NBA, people reacted. And when it came time to show up, we literally ran from it. I mean, you're asking someone to stand up when literally you get paid to run from stuff. When you look at basketball, you're getting paid to make a basket. When you look at football, you're getting paid to run away from it. I mean,
Make a point. I mean, I don't know, man. It just seems like this whole mixing of politics and sports. I mean, I get it because sports is now more powerful than ever. But it's just this. I think that's the whole kind of drawback for a lot of people is, they say that they want to just keep sports and keep it out of politics. But it's just kind of like where everything kind of all meshed together now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, sports have always been politics because it was always a situation of we wanted this set of people to be able to participate and we wanted this set of people not to. I mean, if you really look at the history of every single sport that you can come up with, there's always been some sort of issue with segregation. And then from that, people would use the sports as a platform. I mean, if you really need an example of that, you can look at, World War II, when Jesse Owens was running and beat them all. Hitler went over to him and shook his hand and whatnot. I mean, like, honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, hate it or love it, that's been our platform that we've had based off of the scenarios. So it's just a case of, for me, it was a little bit sad or disheartening to see that platform wasted when it came to football. Even though I may not, watch it as much as someone else, I still understand the necessity of it. I understand the camaraderie. I understand the patriotism that has been infused into that sport because it's broken down so many different barriers. You have so many. It's for lack of better words, football is one of those major distractions. And the reason why they don't want it to be political is because, you know, when people are in poverty, back in like the Roman era, they would tell them, let them go see the games. Let them go to the Coliseum. And in the Coliseum, they would pit human beings against human beings, fighting and killing each other, and that was the entertainment. Now, we're not fighting and killing each other literally, but if you look at football for what it is, it's the same situation. It's another type of Coliseum. Oh, yeah.
Now, is it just me, or do the uniforms of women's sports? Do you guys also feel like the uniforms are over sexualized? Volleyball, gymnastics, swimming. Do you feel like the uniforms are just over sexualized?
Undoubtedly, I would say they are, but at the same time, in some situations, like the figure skating and whatnot, you could say or argue that it's aesthetic flair or whatnot. But other ones, yeah, I mean, it is sexualized. But, you know, on the same term, it's like for women, it's the issue or the barrier that you have to fight over being over-sexualized. For the black athlete, it's a case of being overly praised for primal prowess, because they look at it as like, oh my gosh, he's so athletic. Your athleticism is almost objectified. It's like, look at how high he can jump, look how far he can run, look how he catches. And then the different parallel for women is it over sexualizes how they look while they're doing certain things, especially in gymnastics.
Hell to the yeah.
That's like the Williams sisters with tennis. Like it was such a big deal with, you know, Serena wearing that. What was it, like some kind of onesie suit or something?
It was actually medical for her, and the crazy thing about it is, I think honestly, it's still one of those situations where I'm not gonna say everybody in tennis or whatnot, but I'll say because she's such a dominating force, and you can't knock her down. I mean, if they were co-ed, I think she'd still be probably number one or number two, even against men. She's such a dominating force that people are resentful. If you really think about it, people get resentful of certain people. Like in boxing, it's like you have the champ, but then at one point it's where you're hoping the champ gets knocked out so that someone else gets their turn, someone else gets their opportunity to do certain things. So, you know, it's that type of situation.
Yeah, So Serena, she's still killing it, man. How old is she?
That'd be her like mid-30s.
Yeah, gotta be in the mid-30s, man. She been around since forever, my whole life.
Yeah, speaking.
Yeah, but you know, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, she's been around for a while, but when I think about that question you were asking before, as far as do I think people are over-sexualized or like kind of pigeonholed in certain ways, when I look at all the adversity that we've experienced throughout all the athletics, if you think about it, I mean, Tiger Woods, he experienced some stuff too. He recently just came out of his situation as far as being able to perform on that level.
Yeah. Did y'all see that? Speaking of boxing, I discussed boxing. Y'all see that fucking match with fucking Andy Ruiz and
yeah, I seen that joint. Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like you had this fat, out of shape looking dude.
Oh, who walked out the ring on him.
Yeah, like he was a clear underdog, and you know, it's like he just this fat slob that just beat this big, you know, bodybuilding looking nigga. And it's like, I think it was Jerry V or somebody. It was somebody said that made men across the nation basically be like, man, fuck this damn gym membership.
Man, I'll tell you, at least he had common sense. Because my thing is, if you know it's a bad situation, just don't even take the L. He's like, nope, not today. He said, I'm taking my behind home. I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
He walked out that thing so clean.
Yeah, I was hearing like he got like Joshua Anthony or whatever name. What's his name? Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, Anthony Joshua.
There's like 2 first names of the name. But anyways, but yeah, he they said he got knocked out by a sparring partner like the day before the match. So he was already like freaking out. Like he didn't want to do the match.
I bet he did. This dude, I mean, can you blame this guy? This guy came in there talking about, I'm trying to catch a case in the ring. Like, who says that?
Yo,
really?
Boxers are crazy, man. They have to be crazy to do that sport.
I'm not knocking him for that. I'm just saying, I can't blame a person if you thought better of yourself and said, you know what? I like living. I like being able to see my kids. You know what? I want to be able to retire.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to catch 2 more concussions.
Yeah, them niggas, they be getting all kind of concussions and shit. You know, Tyson biting off his fucking ear and all that shit. Like that just.
It's just weird. Like it's just weird for him to win because, in the sport of boxing, everything is stamina, and you would think that guy with his body type, he don't have that kind of stamina built up. But I guess he stayed in. Like I guess he's a good boxer.
I'll put it this way: stamina is definitely a key thing when it comes to boxing. But if you get hit like a freight truck and you only need 1 hit, that's all it takes. Other dudes gonna be running around trying to take swipes at you. You just sit there, dodge a couple, and wake up with a haymaker, and it's over. I mean, dude with 2 first names, he knocked the guy out so close. I was like, when did he swing? It looked like a jab.
Yeah.
But you could see the force behind the punch.
Right. Yeah. Now niggas gotta call him 2 first names, man. They can't even call him by his real name.
Yeah, we can't even call yeah, but I don't even know shit about boxing, so I'm just leaving it at that.
Yeah,
man. But yeah, we also got a dating guru on the podcast right now. Call him Jarred Stein, aka the Lady Killer, right here.
Oh, okay.
Nah, I'm not a dating guru, man. I promise you.
Are you the hitch like Will Smith in that movie?
I wish.
What's your vetting process? Cause you remember you talking about earlier about the vetting process to marriage and all that shit. So what's a Jarred Stein vetting process?
Honestly, I'll give it to you. I think most men look at a woman and they say to themselves, man, let me submit my resume. It's like, I hope she likes this, and this. And I kind of come up with the mindset of, I'm reviewing resumes. Like, if you're comfortable and confident as far as what you could bring to the table, it's not a case that you have to extend your resume out there and say, do you accept me? It's a case of, do I want you? What can you bring to the table?
Oh yeah, that's definitely facts. Like that's a key of advice a lot of men don't even realize, like that they don't even have. Like what you just said, a lot of men try to show their resume rather than reviewing the resumes.
Like I'll give you a good example of this because I was talking to I'm gonna tell them about the account, Gene. I'm gonna tell them about the account.
The account.
I know that you were already waiting for me to talk about that concept.
The account. Oh man.
So we were at the gym one day, just bullshitting after a workout, and I was telling them that you should all open up a dating account, and they looked at me and they said, what are you talking about, dating account? I said, think about it. Whenever you meet a woman, first thing you're thinking about is, man, she's hot. And your money's all mingled in that one account. So you start spending money, you might spend that rent, you might spend that bill, you might overspend because you're trying to show off or whatnot, but you're being irresponsible. The dating account is a concept where basically, if you have a drought season, where you just aren't seeing anything that you want, stuck a few dollars away in that dating account, so that when you see the person that you like, you're not worried about, oh, I can't afford to take them out. You can go out with them up front, off gate. You've already budgeted up front what you're going to spend. The good thing about the dating account is it allows you to review what you're getting out of the relationship up front. So you can track financially, what all have I paid on this individual? What am I getting from them? And it's not so much that it's about the money, but it's a case. It gives you an objective way to see what are you getting from your interaction from them. Are you spending quality time?
So basically, if she acting up, bitch, you ain't getting none out of this account.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to tell her about that. I wouldn't necessarily recommend.
You ain't getting no money. I done spent too much on you already.
But actually, in all seriousness, this ties back to that first question that you asked me about as far as the marriage and the prenup and whatnot. They say the number 1 and 2 reasons that people get divorced is because of sex and money. So I said, if you have some money, I'm pretty sure the other one's automatically going to come. Not that you're paying for it, but you have it set up in a situation where you're prioritizing that individual. And then if you keep that account when you get married, instead of like, oh, we can't afford it because of the kids, you should keep saving and putting money into that account so that you can keep on dating while you're married. Thus, you're able to keep your marriage together because you're not stopping as far as doing the things that got her in the first place.
Wow.
So it's just
Yo, this guy is ahead of the curve, bro. I ain't never thought of some shit like that.
I told you, bro.
Yo, that is an eye opener. I'm gonna open up a dating account.
I'm telling you.
Go ahead.
I said, I'm telling you, like, it's just a smart thing to do, because my thing is like, most guys have this mindset of, well, I hope I'm good enough, I'm this and that and the other. I feel like if you can refine something, hone in on your talent or whatnot, when you meet somebody that's worthwhile, you can just say, hey, I'd love to take you out. And it's like, oh, okay. And then you're able to evaluate certain things. I mean, even on the first date, you can watch, what does she order? Check to see, does she order the most expensive item? Does she order the least expensive item? Does she waste the food, or does she take the food with her? I mean, there's so many different things that you can observe in that first date, because honestly, the money is irrelevant. It's giving you access that you can observe certain behaviors, and you can factor those things into your decision making. Does she warrant having another date? I know she's fine, I know she's cute, and then on top of that, what does she bring to the table? Because, most times you get asked the question of, what can you do for me? It's like, nah, I'm already paying my own bills, paying my own way, keeping things in check, got my own good credit, whatever. What do you bring to the table outside of, the obvious? Because that's going to get old.
I'm going to get tired of that. I'm never going to get tired of that. But, like, you can't just come with just that. Yeah, I feel what you're saying, though.
Right, yeah, because, my thing is, you're constantly building something. So for me, I think of it in terms of, I'm building my empire. Everyone's out here building their empire. So Steve Harvey said something a while ago. He said, behind every great man is a great woman. He said, you could be successful without a woman, but to be great, you would need to have a woman partner, whatever your persuasion is. Uh-huh. So for me, I'm looking at it and I say to myself, okay, if I can do everything on my own right now, I need someone that's going to help me build my next step, that's going to help me move forward. And if you have someone, or you meet someone that can help you out with your vision, that's a gift in itself right there. That's what comes back to the whole being equally yoked aspect. The dating process is to find out and figure out, are you compatible with this individual? So
wait, what's that word you said? Equally, what's that word?
Equally yoked.
Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
You still team celibate, bro? I got some pussy laugh, or hell yeah. What's up, man?
Leave it to your interpretation.
Oh, man.
Hey, man.
That's the only man I know. That's the only man I know that intentionally teen celibate.
I mean, we have another friend. I'm not going to say his name on air, but we have another mutual friend that went through the celibacy phase.
On purpose?
You said what?
On purpose?
Yeah, on purpose. I tried it on purpose for like a good little minute.
I know what you're talking about. I think that nigga was lying, but
but look, bro, ain't no shame in it. Ain't nothing wrong with it. So
no, ain't no, ain't none of that. I'm saying the shame is when it's not on purpose, which is in my case. But nah, if you do it on purpose, then there's no shame in it at all. You going fishing, but you ain't catching no fish. That's what you say. That's what I'm celibate by default.
Damn.
But anyway, so good. When it comes to that, like what is that's also a part of your vetting process as far as
I'll put it this way. Like, I know everyone has their needs and needs to get certain things taken care of, so I'm not going to knock anybody for it. But you also got to think of it in terms of, whenever you settle down, are you really going to want to have to, like, move from an entire city, move from an entire zip code, move from an entire coast? I mean, like, depending on how much volume you're pushing, I look at it as that's something that is going to come regardless of whether you want it or not. I'm not really pressed over it. If you're interesting off gate, that'll come. You don't have to ask for that. They're going to ask you. So it's really nothing to be pressed about. But as far as consideration, I mean, I consider how they carry themselves. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So during those times, like what gets your mind off of that? Like what do you do to get your mind off of that?
I mean, honestly, if you're focusing on your work, on your craft, on your goal, you just have to get single-minded about certain things. Because if you get single-minded about certain things, you'll be able to execute. I mean, honestly, it's really more of a testament to your ability to have self-control more than anything, because anything, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, whether it's sex, whatever the situation, if you don't have control over that, you're not master over yourself. And I refuse to be, addicted or dictated by anything, whether it's any of those items.
Facts. And anything, too much of anything is a bad thing.
Yep, even veggies. I know you mentioned Steve Harvey. How you feel about that Steve Harvey Monique conversation, Jarred?
That's a tough one. Because I agree with both sides of it. For Monique, you need to know your worth. You need to argue your worth. I think the biggest thing that probably hurt her in her situation is when she proclaimed that she was the greatest of XYZ. If you're the greatest, you don't ever proclaim that title for yourself. You let other people say it. Now, I would say she could have said that she was very talented in her craft. She's demonstrated that she can pull or all these other things. But again, it comes back to what we're talking about. You got to look at who owns Netflix, who controls Netflix, and what Netflix is. Now, they're going to give money to people who produce. Dave Chappelle clearly was able to produce, had his own show. He walked away from it. When you have the attitude of I can do good with or without you, that in and of itself allows you to request and have given to you and have people ask you to do something versus you having to ask them to do something else. Now, I haven't kept up with her routines and what all she's doing on the side, but I do know that because of how she comes off, it's not so much that what she said is wrong. It's just, again, who's saying it, how it's coming off. So, for example, if you took someone like Kerry Washington and you let her say the exact same things that Monique said, she would have had her money because it's how people are viewing her, how people like her, those types of things. But because she has a different look, a different type of presentation than a Kerry Washington, she's gotten the pushback, the blackballing, the ostracization that she's experienced thus far. As far as Steve Harvey, I think, understands where she's coming from, but he's saying at the same time, he's like, look, I get you, sis, it's a messed up structure, but at this point in time, don't let your convictions destroy you to the point where you can't do anything. She's in a space, I'm not saying that she doesn't have money, but I'm saying she's in a space where she still has to cooperate to some degree with the powers that be, because at the end of the day, she doesn't have her own production studio. So she can't just say, I'm going to produce my own thing. She's not Tyler Perry in that regard. Tyler Perry can do whatever the heck he wants to do and has done, because he has the resources to do that. He's not waiting for someone to give him a shot. He's making the shots. He built his own studio. Monique is still a talent, and whenever you're a talent, you have to be careful, because you're not in control of your narrative. Your whole composition, your whole reality, your whole existence is based off of the opinions of other people. And it's easy for a person like Netflix, the powers that be, to influence how people will perceive you, how they're going to view you, how they're going to characterize you. I know she's had a couple of different fallouts, like Lee Daniels. She had a fallout with him. She had a fallout with, I think, Todd Perry at one point. She's had a lot of fallouts with different people because of different situations. Not that she's wrong in all the situations, but once you get typecasted as being argumentative, it's kind of a hard situation to be in. I'm not saying she's wrong, not saying she's wrong, but I get both sides of it.
Yeah. Like everything Jarred just said, I 100% agree with in that situation.
But I will say that there are some situations where you have to stay your convictions. So, for example, with Colin Kaepernick, that's the situation where he stood his ground. He knew, he's like, if I do this, I'm probably never going to play football again, but it means that much to me. Yeah. For Monique, she's not at that point in her life, because if she was, she would say, you know what, the hell with Netflix, forget boycotting. She would have said, you know what, Tyler, I'm tired of all these black artists being marginalized and being undercut. You have influence at this point in time. We ought to create a talent pool or resource. We stream our own content, where you're able to get basically a BET of streaming. And I'm not saying that she could have done it by herself, but if she looks around and she says, hey guys, in private, this is how they're doing us. We're getting sharecroppers mentality over here. And I go back to that same word because it's the same situation. It's like clawing and begging at the pot, and they throw you a couple of scraps. Whereas you don't own your content. The people who are streaming your content, if they don't like you, they can pull the streaming at any given time. Look at Cosby. And then where do you go? Where do you make your money from? You have so many consolidated power bases that are in control of you that you don't have any options. So are you willing to make the stand and suffer, or are you willing to make the stand and rise? That's the question that you have to pose for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. The overall theme is ownership.
Right.
But then a person that is, sitting on their couch trying to figure out, where can I look to, as far as ownership? What can I look into? What can I invest in?
I would say land.
Okay.
Because land is something that will always appreciate in value. They're not making more of it, and even the little bits that they've tried to do with that, it can get washed away by a tsunami. So domestic land, they're not making more of it. So buy it. You may not have the money to buy a house right this second, but you can buy some land. I mean, you can buy land for like $10,000, $8,000, $15,000 in plots. And you can buy it in all sorts of obscure places. You own it. Yeah, you may pay a little bit of taxes on it, but you still have an asset.
Right. Right. Yeah, land. Definitely land. And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying that I would encourage getting some land, and then if you can get a large piece of land, building on it, and eventually renting it or converting it into some type of income stream. Because honestly, the one thing that is nice for celebrities, especially if they were in acting, they get paid royalties off of the streaming and the services and all those good things. So they may not act another day in their life, but they're still getting a check that cut to them. And if wealthy people, celebrities, are doing something like that, then it's our task in the bracket that we're in right now to figure out what can I do to generate some income for myself where I'm not having to trade hours for dollars. Because if you own your own business, you're still trading hours for dollars. It's just a case that you're in the seat versus someone else. It's when you're able to become a franchise. It's when you're able to become something where you're producing a product and it's automatically being sold on its own. Automation of self is how you're going to have that revenue.
Facts.
Okay, so with you being the, I think you'll give Patrick a run for his money as far as a political debate. So then, let me give you a political question then. What would you do to change the community, like a impoverished situation, like a Laurenburg? What would you do to go in and change that situation for those low-income families and help grow that city or town?
What I would do is I would start off, and this is under the assumption that I have resources at my disposal. I would create probably about 5 buildings where basically I have subsidized rent. And basically the requirement for having that subsidized rent is you have to go through this education program. And based off the education program that you go through, if you complete it, the subsidized rent is discounted, and a percentage of that rent would be converted to a savings account. So that once you complete the program, that savings account gives you some seed money. So based off of what type of room or apartment structure you're in, it could be anywhere between $5,000, $7,500, and $10,000 of seed money available to you that gets paid out to you after you've lived there for X amount of years. So we'll just say 5 years. And with that type of program, I'm teaching the people how they can educate themselves about the finances, because I think without financial literacy, all the money you throw at a situation is in vain. So by going through that program, and it provides them literacy, it provides them opportunity as far as networking, because just because you're not in one situation, not everyone's in the same situation, but everybody knows somebody. So it creates an organic network for that particular city and area. And then based off of succession and getting those funds, people can invest back in the town, whether it's opening their own business, whether it's buying a house. And then when you create that sense of pride of self, that knowledge of self, organically, after about I would say 10 to 15 year time span, you would have enough time invested in the area where it would automatically mature and grow. So I think you have to think outside the box. A lot of companies, a lot of programs from the government, they like throw money at things without giving education, like real life applicable education.
Word.
But if you were to do something like that, I think it would be a little more sustainable and stable. Because if you understood how the lines of your district are maneuvered to make it so that you can have a voice when you're voting, it would make you a little bit upset. If you understood that your tax dollars aren't going to the schools because the lines have been crisscrossed this way, it'd make you upset. I think people have the most change when they have something that they're upset about and something that they have the ability to change. So, for instance, if you're in an impoverished area, you have to realize that your area is not impoverished. That's just the powers that be that are telling you that your area is impoverished because they want you to move out so that they can scoop in, grab it on the cheap, and then build it up.
Gentrify it.
Exactly. I mean, if you really think about it, almost every single neighborhood you can think of, if you go to it and you look at the blueprint of the construction for that state or that city over the next 30 years, is a gentrification movement. It's like, oh, this area is dilapidated, or this area doesn't have any type of business, so we need people to move out. So they'll push people out, all the while already knowing that they're going to put in this business, that business, this business. Or they'll run like a rail line, a bus route, a light rail through a neighborhood to break it up, because the property taxes go to a point where you can't afford it. You sell it off on the cheap, and then someone scoops in, builds a house, and they sell it for $500,000, $300,000, $250,000, and then you're boxed out of being able to live in that city. I mean, that's happening in Crenshaw. It's happening all over the country, but I know recently that was one of the things I heard is happening over there. I think it's that arena that they're building that is pushing people out.
Yeah, so that idea that you had with the 5 buildings, that's actually a great idea. I've never even heard of something like that or close to it. When did you come to that idea, like, in your mind? Like, was it a while ago, or?
It's kind of something that I have as a long-term goal one day to do. I won't go into all the details of it, but basically I saw this guy, I forget, I thought it was a baseball player who did it. He went to, I can't remember his name in my life, but I think he was in the Mercy Projects or something like that, and he like bought up the buildings and started subsidizing the rent. And, you know, one man can only do so much, but the thought process behind that was, you know, I think Louis Farrakhan has been stating previously, when are you going to make the change that you've been asking for? And my thought process on that is, you know, as a people, we've been sharecropping, I'll go back to that point again, all our life. Like, we've been begging someone to give us this. We've been working on someone else's, I won't say someone else, we've been working on land that's occupied by someone else. But the concept of ownership, it seems so fleeting to us. Like, when I prepared taxes and I saw, previously prior to the tax reform, when I saw the level of refunds that people were getting, it was insane. Like, I prepared some returns where they were getting like $9,000 back. Weren't making a lot of money, but because they were able to itemize their kids and they were getting exemptions for their kids, they were getting some buku money. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, if your grandmother and your mother and you live in a neighborhood and you all are getting $9,800 back, why don't you just pool your resources together, buy a house, rent out one of the rooms, and then you keep on duplicating that process, and over time, you have a house, your grandmother has a house, your mom has a house, the family has houses, that you have property on a block. And it's really not like a hard process. You don't have to go to the neighborhood that is selling for $200,000, $500,000. But if you go into a neighborhood that, like in the 100s or whatever, it's very much a realistic goal. Because, I mean, if you were getting refunds like that over the course of a 10-year time span, it's easy math to know that you're knocking out the course of that house in 5 years.
Wow, yeah. Yeah.
And the arena you were talking about was the Clippers' new arena that they building.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the idea really came from just being tired of not owning. Like, I grew up with my parents having owned a house, and they had it. So I grew up in the house, and I was like, you know, I really want this one day. But when you get out of college and you're 5 years behind the curve because you can't get a full-time job because the economy, you're not networked or plugged in to get someone to slide you in to get this position paying this rate, it really puts you behind. But again, I'm not a person who makes excuses. I try to figure out how to make some results. I worked a couple of jobs, but, you know, during that process, I took care of certain things. I have decent credit at this point in time. So now it's a situation where I'm able to do more. And while I may have sacrificed 2 years of my life to get out of that position, now if I have a family, if I have kids, or let's say, for example, I'm dating someone, my resume already speaks for itself. It's like, oh, he has good credit. Oh, he has his own house. Oh, he's paying his own bills. Oh, he believes in this. I don't have to push or say that, hey, look at me, I'm so good. I can review and say, does she bring what I need? Is she someone that's going to be able to manage this? Is she someone that's careful with her resources? Is she someone that's a spendthrift? Because, you know, all of those attributes and habits translate into other areas of your life. If you're irresponsible and reckless in one area, you can be irresponsible and reckless in another.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jarred, how old are you?
I just just turned 33 May 11th.
Okay. That's good, man. 30s, yeah. When I get to my 30s, I see myself, being where you at.
Preach. In fact, I'm gonna speak even more. I see you being farther than where I am.
Word.
I want the next man to have more than what I have, because honestly, you guys are sharp. You're doing something right now that I'm very proud of. Like this podcast, man. Like Gene's been on me to try to do something for a minute, and I appreciate being able to come here and speak too. But yeah, you guys are doing your thing too. I mean, things like this are needed.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. Well, I ain't got nothing else. If you guys got anything else to talk about,
What you did for your birthday, Jarred? I might think your birthday just sneak by. You ain't say shit.
Nah, man, because I did something different this year. I did something different. So, my birthday was on a Saturday, and I had to work. But honestly, I was born on Mother's Day. So for me, it's always been kind of a rough situation these past couple of years. So I decided to do something different. I said, let me go surprise my grandmother, because you can focus on your own hurt, or you can focus on making something better for someone else. And this year was the first year where I focused on someone else.
Wow.
And I felt so much better, because it's like, if I'm missing having my mother here, I know my grandmother's missing having her daughter. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's all I can say about that.
Preach.
Um,
I'm gonna leave. If you guys don't have anything else to say, we can open the floor for shout outs.
Yeah, I start out my shout out with shout out to Gerald McCoy, signed to Carolina for 1 year, $10 million, $4 million signing bonus. You know what I'm saying? We about to get right this year. You already know. He chose us over the sorry ass Browns, who got a lot of talent, but I don't know what they're gonna do. So we're gonna make a push this year. So that's my shout out for the day.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Hold on. And shout out Tracy Morgan. He supposed to be hosting the ESPYs July 10th, but this nigga crashed a fucking $2 million Bugatti 30 minutes after driving off the fucking lot, and cussed the bitch out. Shout out to him too.
But yeah, I'm gonna shout out the dang, what's the director? No, director. I think it's director. The director that shot the series of, the show that I'm watching right now, When They See Us, Ava DuVernay. She's made a lot of projects over the past years, and all of her projects are quality. So I want to shout her out. She's a black woman, educated, and she has a message every project that she puts out. And I also want to shout out Jay-Z for becoming a billionaire. So yeah, that's my shout outs for the day. Jarred, you said what?
And Rihanna for being
Oh yeah, her too.
highest paid female artist.
That's facts, man. You got any shout outs, Jarred?
Well, what was that?
It's a malfunction.
You guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
All right, yeah, we hear you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, he's fading out again.
Dang, right at the shout outs, Jarred. Damn. Yikes. Hey, it's all good. We're gonna get Jarred. We definitely gonna get him on these shout outs. Damn.
Were you able to hear me?
All right, go ahead.
No, I said, did you hear what I said?
Oh, no. You gotta repeat yourself.
Oh, I was saying, I want to give a shout out to
Damn.
See, you know what happened is the government done tapped into the fucking podcast.
That's what it is, man.
That's what's going on. You got too many dudes. Hey, God bless. Best prayers to my boy Jared. Hopefully they ain't sitting nobody to cap him off. I ain't trying to talk that business.
Yeah, man.
God damn. Tapped into the shit.
All right, wait, hold on. I think. You there?
I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
He's still alive, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, shout your people out before the government cut you off again.
My shouts to Nips Hustle. I know he's not here with us in the physical, but he's inspiring everybody. Still, even not being here, that's my shout out, man. I don't have like a lot of people to shout out to, but that legacy that he left, that entrepreneurial spirit, shouting out to him.
Facts, man. Yeah, never forget that, man. Watch his videos, watch his interviews, get enlightened on that, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for joining the podcast, man. It was fun. You enlightened me. I learned a lot of stuff talking to you, man.
Appreciate it. I learned a lot from you guys as well.
Yeah, this is the smartest guy you'll ever meet in your life. Jarred Stein. Got the Jewish last name, even though he black. Shout out to Burg.
Yeah, we're gonna close this one out, man. Thank you, Jarred.
No problem. Catch you guys.
Yep. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, that was a podcast. It was a good episode. Shout out to Gene, Petty G, and Jarred. I want to thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys follow the page, Burg Bros Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram. That's the Crooklyn Third. And keep watching the videos, man. I know we get 10 views a video, but keep watching the videos and thumbs up and show some love. G, you got something?
You can follow me Instagram, Petty G the Don. Yeah, definitely keep showing love on the videos. Please subscribe and also hit the bell so you can get the notification. Definitely comment so we can get more feedback on what we fuck up on, or things you like, etc. Yeah, just keep being great, and that's all I got.
Yeah, man. And this is the Burg Bros Podcast.